What's going on, homies? What is happening? What is happening? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Welcome to or welcome back to Kovacs Corner. I got a little bit of time right now in the middle of my day. We're gonna start things off with happy Saturday. Cheers to all the homies. But yeah, welcome to or welcome back to Kovacs Corner. I appreciate you taking the time, come through, hang out with your homie as we end up checking out a video that Grubby posted a little while back. I'm ranking all Warcraft 3 competitive maps. Competitive in brackets because he is a competitive player. He's a world champion, king of the orcs. You know what it is? You know what it does. But yeah, man, feel free to hit me up on any one of my other social media platforms down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, feel free to hit up the PayPal or become a member. We got 3 tiers. I'm going to be working on a 4th tier, like I've said. I've been writing down everything, pretty much how I'm going to be restructuring the channel. I'm going to be banging out a couple videos today just to have off to one side and posts in advance throughout the week. So if you're members, you'll be able to see the videos a day earlier compared to everybody else. Everybody else is going to have to wait. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. It's been a minute. I missed it. Missed streaming. Missed chilling with you guys. You know what I mean? But I got this new position and I'm loving it. I'm enjoying myself quite thoroughly at this new job and stuff like that. But I'm always going to make time to try and get this to correspond with what's going on. But as we're about to get into it, I'm going to drop that background music. We're about to get into it. Don't forget, everything goes to Grubby, man. Huge shout out to Grubby for doing this for the Warcraft 3 community to react to look over, to glance over, give them a heads up about what's going on for the maps from a professional's point of view. Yeah, not only that, but like we're going to end up looking into a couple other videos, learning how to use humans because it's a new month. Everybody voted for human. It is what it is. That's going to be our new race to use. But without further delay, let's get right into it and see what Grubby has to say.
Yo guys, what's up? It's time for another tier list. But this time, it's not going to be a racial tier list. I am going to be judging where all these races have been playing.
It's funny to think about like Warcraft 3 racist. Especially against orcs, man.
Which battleground has been the most beautiful tapestry for historical Warcraft 3 matches? Today it's time for the map tier list.
So I'm actually really looking forward to this because I'm pretty sure he's going to end up breaking down where to go for creeps to give us all a little bit of an understanding of how to go about doing our own creep route as we get to playing the 1v1s with humans and stuff.
For one-on-one competitive Warcraft 3 play over the last 22 years. Yes, which map has produced the most legendary games between...
Oh, before we even go on, like always, before he puts it on his tier list, we're gonna throw what tier we believe the map is going to be part of.
Yes, which map has produced the most legendary games between various players? And which one has produced the absolute biggest stinkers? Additionally, it's not just about the most amount of best games and the most amount of worst games, but also how is the balance on the map? Like, is this generally a balanced map, or how?
And that's something that I'm really curious about the balance practice between the maps.
How is the balance on the map? Like, is this generally a balanced map, or has it traditionally hugely favored one side or the other? You see, in Warcraft 3 tournament map pools, usually there are about 5, 7 or 9 maps in any given tournament map rule set. And when competitive players play against one another, they'll typically both veto one away that cannot be played at all, and then they will pick their favorite map, which might be played first or second, or even third with certain systems, and the other player will pick a favorite map. So both will pick one of their favorites, they'll delete their least favorite, and then they'll play on the only remaining map. And if it's a best of 5 in a 7 map pool, same thing. But if it's a best of 3 in a 7 map pool, both players will eliminate 2 maps from the pool. And usually, as you're preparing as a tournament player, you'll know what your opponent is going to be eliminating before you even meet each other at the tournament. Now, how could you know that? Wouldn't it be a big advantage to hide where you're going to be fighting so that your opponent is practicing on neutral map 1, 2, and 3 because he eliminated the 2 worst, and you are going to eliminate the 2 worst for you, which are the best for him probably, and then you meet in the middle on the 3 maps. So that's 3 maps of practice. You could completely upend those expectations by playing on the 2 maps that are expected to be eliminated and eliminating the neutral ones. Then they wasted 66% of their practice. That seems...
Damn, 66% of their practice. Yo, see nice what's going on. Yo, dropped a like, be right back. If I miss it, I'll catch you later. Happy CDS. React Saturday. Zoom to the store again. LOL. All right, safe trip to the store, bro. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming through. If you're gonna check it later, that's cool too. Doesn't even matter. Enjoy your Saturday if I don't see you. And yes, tonight is Community Duel Saturday. We are going to be popping off tonight because tonight we are doing White People Taco Night. All right. Every time it kills me every time.
Eliminating the neutral ones. Then they wasted 66% of their practice.
So like that's crazy. 66% of the practice. That's over half. You know. So it only gives you, what is that? 44% of a chance to end up getting that practice in. That's crazy. To think about Warcraft 3 statistically, when it comes to the maps, what race you're using, what heroes you're using, on top of what items you're using. Not to mention, Grubby just finished dropping a React video, a tier list video for all the Warcraft 3 items. We're gonna end up doing a video about that, and it's gonna come out later on in the week. But yeah, no man, that's crazy to me.
Seems like a great idea, and yet barely ever happened. Why? Because the power advantage that some races have over another on particular maps is so big that it outweighed the surprise element of pulling such a stratagem as I just described.
Well, like, you also have to take in consideration about pro players all know what each race does, how the creep routes go. Each player knows what drops, like where to go for creeps for certain drops that they need for their army to try and make it a little bit stronger compared to their opponent. So like they'd have a general understanding of what each other are doing depending on the race, unless you're playing random, right? Because there's man, what's his name? We'll get into it after, because they actually have a new person that went up against Happy, and he plays random, and that's a tough race to go up against, because essentially you have no idea what it is that you're going against. You're gonna have to scout, or you're gonna have to catch them if they're coming around to scout too, right? Just so that you have a general idea. But by that time, you're already like 2.5 minutes deep, maybe 4 to 5 minutes deep. It all depends. Usually, it's about the first minute and a half, 2 minutes that you'll end up seeing someone trying to scout, and you'll see their unit, so that it will give you a heads up if they're playing random about what race it is. Hopefully, it'd be a little bit in time to give you a general idea of how to structure your army and your base.
Price element of pulling such a stratagem as I just described. And so where is the power imbalance on the maps the greatest, and which maps produce the most stinkers and which maps produce the best ones? Let's talk about it. We've got our usual tier S, A, B, C, D. Tier S is legendary map, best amount of great games, relatively balanced, etc. Tier D is the best producers of stinkers. When you play on the map that is listed as Tier D, you'll go, who cut the cheese? B is just stable, relatively balanced. Most people allow it to go through in the map elimination and veto process. And then A and C are the less extreme versions of S and D. So let's get into it. I have prepared the following 14 maps.
Damn.
I have prepared the following 14 maps. And they do not cover everything. There's a couple of omissions here. For instance, there used to be this map, Maelstrom, that I was pretty partial to as well. Maelstrom
remember
was
that
pretty
map.
cool. It was played back in 2004. It was
2004,
played in 2004.
2005.
Maelstrom was essentially Lost Temple on steroids. It was also a middle of the map healing fountain map. And what I liked about Maelstrom is that every undead player that had a match against an orc player on Maelstrom ditched their lifetime of practice of undead, and just lifetime, it was like 1.5 years old, the game. But they stopped playing undead on that map, and they played orc as well. So they would rather play orc mirror against the opponent who is a full-time orc player, rather than trying to risk playing undead, which is their main thing. So to put that in perspective, say you go to the Olympics and you are a karate black belt and you're going to perform at the Olympics or whatever. I don't even know if that performs at the Olympics. I guess not. Let's say vaulting. You're a black belt vaulter and you're going to the Olympics, but you can't participate because vaulting is cancelled, and you're actually going to participate in I don't know any other Olympic sports. Curling? Is curling Olympics? The 100-meter dash, there we go. Instead of vaulting, you're gonna do a 100-meter dash just because you think you have a better chance there because the competition is worse there. That's the perfect metaphor. So what would drive a man to ditch their main race and go for their second race? Maelstrom would. So Maelstrom was not a good map, but as an orc player I loved it. Anyway, I digress. Let's begin. Let's start cracking on these 14. To begin with, Amazonia.
So for Amazonia, I've played on the map a few times. He's going to give his opinion about it as well, but I would rank that map about a B tier, like a high B tier, low A tier. That's my opinion. Let me know your opinions, and if you're watching this later, let me know your opinions in the comments.
Amazonia. Let's take a look. I've got big preview pictures, so let's take a look at the previews, yeah? Amazonia, here we go. This is Amazonia. This map is pretty small. It is, you've got one player starting to the bottom left, yeah? One player starts over here in the bottom left, and then the other player starts over here in the top right. Right next to the starting spawn for the top right player, and next to the starting spawn for the bottom left player, you've got a Goblin Laboratory. The Goblin Laboratory is protected by a Renegade Wizard level 5. Now,
Renegade Wizards level 5 usually have pretty powerful items to use, and if not, at least a useful item to use.
in 2003 of Warcraft 3, roughly the beginning, 2002 and 2003, the way that the game was coded was that any creep all over the map starts at 0 mana. And then as the game starts, they would slowly start regenerating mana, and that meant that when a person started creeping their first neutral NPC camps, that we call creeps in Warcraft 3, so when they start farming the first NPCs, the neutrals, and we call that when they start creeping, those creeps would not have a lot of mana. They would only have enough mana for one small spell and nothing big. But for some reason, when Blizzard came back and did Reforged in 2018, and they ended up releasing it in 2020, but they had been working on it for some years, and they should have been working on it for, they should have kept working on it for several more years before releasing it. But for some reason...
Reforged was refund Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 refund. I got a refund the first time until they ended up fixing it, and then I was able to get the game back.
They did something behind the code. They worked in mysterious ways. One thing that happened was all the creeps suddenly start with a lot of mana. Either half full or full or something, and that is true to this day. So for some reason 6 years ago, the way that we creep on maps has changed.
It has changed drastically. Well, like, from ROC days, right? When it first came out, when Warcraft 3 ROC came out, Reign of Chaos, that was the original for Warcraft 3. Everybody got so used to doing everything, and then TFT came out, the Frozen Throne, which was an expansion, and that pricing changed, creeps changed a little bit, and it threw a good majority of people's game off. But then after playing it for a while, people ended up getting used to TFT, right? But now it's Warcraft 3 Reforged, and I'm still technically getting used to like using Orc. I used to use Orc all the time. Like I based my whole strategies of playing Warcraft 3 off of Grubby, because I used to watch him from World Cyber Games up. You know what I mean? So let's get into it.
Or more spells.
It's
that
different
means
now.
It's a little bit harder.
Creeps are different.
And that
it's
had
harder
two big changes
to go around.
The Warcraft.
Where before you'd be able to go to an orange creep right away, kind of thing, with like 3 units in your hero, and you'd stand a chance against it, right? And it will give you a huge leg up as you're starting out. And then if you were to run into their hero or some other units, you're already bigged up enough, plus you already have something, because realistically it'd be like boom, boom, end up doing the expansion, and then you'd be able to creep up because you get tier 2, you could get a second hero here, or you'd end up having a hero go over to the store, or you'd go up, or you would check over here, in my opinion. Like, that's how I would play it.
Map balance. And the way that you creep. The number one change is that we often pull creeps away from where they start. We pull them all the way here.
Yeah.
And then here is roughly the maximum leash distance, which means they will start going home again and go back to their original position. But what happens is, when they are following you, they're mad and they will cast spells. But once they reach the maximum leash distance and they go back down, if you intercept them and just engage them in combat, they will re-aggro you.
Yeah.
But with one major change. They will now no longer cast any spells. This has always been true for Warcraft 3, the way that they coded the AI, but it had never been that important in the early phases of the game because they didn't have a lot of spells anyway.
Militia, nice.
But ever since 26,
Fast creep.
well, and ever since 2018,
Fast expansion,
players
my bad.
have started to utilize this pull leash re-aggro mechanic more and more in order to take less damage, in order for the creeps not to cast their stuns, their ensnares, their dispels, their heals,
And
their
you gotta
buffs,
level up
bloodlust,
right away,
inner
too.
fire, slow, etc. Right?
That's what I was
so
saying
to get all of
before.
those not cast, you will waste a few seconds by pulling them, and then you let them go back. But now you take far less damage. You may even end up creeping the camp faster because it's not fully peppered with inner fire, which gives bonus armor and therefore makes the camp harder to take down. So that's one change that happened to all the maps. And I'm using Amazonia as a template to talk about this here, but it really does affect how many of these maps have been played historically. And it also excuses why the 2003 to 2010 gameplay of creeping wasn't as refined as it is now. Discoveries through Dota AI mechanics, discoveries through being forced to innovate because the creeps are now harder.
I think it's crazy that he actually brings up Dota, because before Dota 2, Dota started on Warcraft 3, ROC.
Discoveries through being forced to innovate because the creeps are now harder. These things both led to better creeping now, better manipulation of creeps. Just like Elden Ring and Souls-like players optimize the way that they do boss battles, so have Warcraft players been optimizing the way they do neutral battles as well in Warcraft 3. Because this Renegade Wizard level 5, this one right here, now has a lot of mana, a second way of creeping has entered the fray. And that is
With the tower?
Lightning Shield retaliation mechanic. So this creep is coded to cast a Lightning Shield on a unit that is mirrored by 2 units on his side. It can be northeast or northwest, it can be northeast, it can be north-south, east-west, it doesn't matter, so long as 2 units are adjacent on either side of a middle unit that happens to attack the Renegade Wizard. He will then cast Lightning Shield on the middle one, which starts doing 20 damage per second against the allied units that are standing around him. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to hurt me and my friends. He's trying to hurt my friends through me. What we do to manipulate against that is I will start moving into the creeps with this unit, and now the Lightning Shield is burning the neutral creeps. So the Renegade Wizard has sowed the seeds of his own demise. He is now being damaged 20 damage per second. this camp has 3 creeps. 60 total DPS is being dished out by the creep himself onto himself. Ironic. And that has made this camp be able to be creeped very fast. This camp also happens to be very close to the gold mine, and that means that the total traveling distance there is
Fast
so short,
expansion.
like 5 seconds. You now can creep it very fast because of lightning shield retaliation mechanic. You can then use the remainder of the lightning shield and creep this camp right here, level 131. This is level 353. Now you're level 2.2 and you can go into the map here, you can go here, you can go here,
Essentially,
you
you
can
go
here, or you
almost
can even do
anywhere.
some cheese mechanic and pull part of this camp and take a creep and so on. Basically what this means is that Amazonia enjoys a highly accelerated early game creeping plan. That means high level hero early, level 2 or level 3, and has a very decelerated creeping plan for level 2 for your second and your third hero.
Yeah.
Because look at the map, it's not that big. This is level 1.9, 2.2, 2.5, take this, you're level 3.2, take this, you're level 3.8, you take this, you'd be 4.5, you take this, you're 5. Right, so if you roughly take half the map without the red spot, you're level 5. What's the second creep? What's the second hero going to take? Now let's.
Now, see, look, that's how I was thinking of the map, because how small the map is by the time you end up getting your second hero, right? There's not a whole lot of space for you to creep for your second hero unless you're going to end up taking a red space, right? If you do take a red space, chances are it'll end up being like level 2.7, 2.6, something like that overall. It'll be just a lot harder. It's always good, especially in 1v1s and competitiveness. You're obviously going to go for a second hero all the time. It's a quick play map. Realistically, it's good for rushing. Rushing aggroes the shit out of me. Or even tower rushing and stuff like that. Bothers the hell out of me. And even if, so let's say he did the militia and stuff, end up going for here, he could do 2 militia, get them up here. By the time they're up there, they become peons. You get 2 towers going. And then you'd be able to pull creeps from both of these, and you could probably get them around to about here, from around here. I don't know, depending on the creep, right?
say that the level.
But that's why I'm
hero
like
doesn't
top B,
eat as
bottom
greedily,
A,
doesn't partake as
because it's a fast-paced
prolifically
map.
from taking down the creeps. He goes to level 2 or 3 and then waits for the second. You'll be level 3-3 roughly, and then the creeps are pretty much gone. You'll maybe be looking at the granite golem. Additionally, this map is a tiny square, a tiny square. It is not a large rush distance. From the main base here to the main base here, I think it would take a peon about 42 seconds to walk.
I was going to say about
The
45
smallest rush
seconds.
distance Warcraft 3 1-on-1 melee pool has ever had. If it takes a peon 42, it takes a hero maybe 30 or so. Look at the tavern. If you pick up a tavern hero, that's halfway the map. That means the tavern hero will only need 15 seconds to attack the enemy base, or to this base. And that means that this map is an insanely vulnerable map for rushing. Very good for rushing, and that's with a high level hero. So what we've seen a lot here is very early level 3 Archmage from these 3 camps, then Water Elemental Rush on the burrows. Rush distance is so short, so Orc has very few units. Then you can pick up a Beastmaster here, more rushing. We see Keeper of the Grove here a lot. Getting high level. There's this really sick exploit. You see this little cubby hole that gets crept out at the 2-minute 30-second mark already, together with this camp. You can build a Tree of Life here. You can then block it with an Ancient of War over here and a Moonwell. So now nobody can actually reach this cubby hole, and there'll be a tree here, and you can't reach it. So this Tree of Life expansion is coming up for free. It can then eat its way through the 6 or so trees here.
Nice.
And go straight to fight this camp from here, and then route right here. And
That's a crazy strat for Night Owls. That is crazy. For a Tree of Life to eat its way through, and then just have it open one tree, and if you wanted to, you could probably eat a few, but you'd have to do the vines on it for the gold mine, for your wisps to be able to get to it, right? And then even then, you could end up doing like Moonwells in the front and do a couple APs, Ancient Protectors.
and go straight to fight this camp from here, and then route right here. And it's pretty.
But I don't feel that the game would last that long due to the size of the map.
Straight to fight this camp from here, and then route right here. And it's pretty much like an unstoppable expansion. And if you still try to come over there as a human or as an orc player, the keeper level 2 or 3 can just entangle a lot of units and defend very, very easily. This is one of the worst maps I've ever played on. I've hated it with a passion since the first time I saw it. The various abuses on this map make this a very uninteresting map. The fact that it's large, open spaces on a tiny map means there is 0 level chance for ninja, ninja abilities. There's no subterfuge, there's no camouflage, there's no hit and run, there's no macro play. My expansion is almost as close to the opponent as it is to myself. Very short rush distance to an expansion. So it is such an uninteresting map. It all comes down to whoever has the better level 1 hero and creeping ability, which generally is Night Elf and Human. And Undead and Orc are usually just not very happy on this map. Especially Orc is not very happy on this map because Orc's design is partially based on the potential to do some hit and run to cover for the weak periods of time for themselves. So Amazonia for me is an absolute stinker of a map. It is boring. I've never seen epic games on this map. Everything that could possibly be wrong with a map is probably wrong in Amazonia. Except there are no random spawning infernals falling from the sky that can instantly blow up your base. Which honestly I think would make it more interesting. It'd be wrong, but it'd be more fun. Next map, Last Refuge. Let's take a look at the close-up of Last Refuge. Last Refuge. This is one of the newer maps.
So let's take a quick look, right? So you're starting here. They're starting here. Expansions across the way on both. Boom. It'd be like boom, boom, boom. I've played on this map. I've played on this map a couple times. It's okay. Man, it's a cheeser a little bit. For me, this is like a C tier map.
This map did not exist in 2010, which is when I last played seriously competitively. And I've pretty much been seeing it since 2018, 2017, 2016, when I started playing and streaming Warcraft 3 again, before Reforged came out. But it may have come out at 2015 or so, I'm not 100% sure when it came, but I just know it's been a part of our lives the last 6 years. Last Refuge is not a perfect map, but it is an interesting map. First of all, it already outranks Amazonia big time by having way more creeps all over the map.
Yeah,
right?
There's more creeps.
You've got some interesting locations. This area is a level 7 gargantuan sea turtle with 4 level 3 creeps. And notice how much of a death trap it is to go in here. Right? So you have your... Let's first talk about the standard layout of the map. You've got your main base here and here. Then you've got your first small little green camp here. And this...
Green camp, over to the yellow. He could creep this way or he could creep this way, depending on how you want to do it.
This is a very tough orange camp. This is a level 5, 5, 4, 4 ogre and troll camp. That's a little tough for most people to do at level 1. So you've got your small green camp here. And you know what makes interesting maps? When you have different creep route options. It's
how I would creep it is green, green. And if you could get up here to get your 2.1 to come back down and then over. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3 down, over, and then you can start creeping up this way. Or you could go like this and across. In my opinion, like that's how I would play it.
Really interesting to have many different openers, just like in chess. The different openers in chess forces people to have more knowledge about initial openings, responses to it, the threat ratio of every opening, the differences in timings. So it's nice when there's different options. So let's say this is usually not an option. This is a very common option. You can also run straight into the map and start harassing opponents in a straight line. Rush distance is average, neither too fast nor too long, right? Some people militia creep this right away, or Ancient of War creep this. So that's an option. Some people start with the mercenary camp right away. Again, militia creep or ancient of war creeping. So that's an option. I've seen some humans go for this camp first. Very tough, but if you don't get found out, very profitable. You can start with this small green camp, the Murlocs. There's some trolls here you could take down as your first camp. Or you could do A, B, C. Okay? You could go straight to the expansion, which would give you level 1.9 if you...
So like straight to the expansion would be the smartest thing, just because you'd be able to start your second expansion right away to help you with resources.
Skip all other creeps.
Help you
or
build
you
a
could
little
do the
bit
green
quicker.
camp and then the expo. So there's many different opening creep routes that keeps the game interesting when played on Last Refuge for so many years. So many different options.
So I'm actually going to take back what I said, and I'll give this a B, like a solid B. Yeah, after like looking at the creep routes, how you have different access points for creep routes, because you could even be like 1, 2, 3, run to the creep, run to here, and then you could either take one of these two if you wanted to, and you'll get a whole quarter of the map if you wanted to, because then by then you could either creep this and then go over here, or you already have a level 2 and then get a second hero from the tavern, or you're going to start creating a second hero, one of the two, and then you can come through and creep this and move over to here if you wanted to. But realistically, in a 1v1, you're not going to go for a double expansion right away. You're going to go for the single expansion just to help you out by the time you hit level 2, and then you'll have enough resources that you're able to just pump units out.
Interesting when played on Last Refuge for so many years. So many different options. The biggest camps on the map, which is the gold mine Ogre level 7 here, guarded by a pack of ogres and trolls. This is a death trap. This is a high ground platform that can be reached from two sides and is therefore likely to cause a point of important friction, a high level objective that either player would love to get. Because of the layout of the map and the fact that pathing towards it is relatively forgiving, you can go from the main, you can go from the middle, you can go from the middle via this side, you can go from the expansion from this side. This is a good thing. That means that this camp can be reached by 4 different usual paths. 4 or 5 can go from the main base all the way here, right? And the more paths lead to a place, the more potential friction and the more skill expression there can be in the quality of decision making from both of the players as they plot their route around the map. What would be different, for instance, is if there was a place that could only be reached in one particular way and you would have to rub shoulders with your opponent to get there. You would almost never fight over that camp because it's way too risky. You could be closed in, or it's just too far out of the way to even bother competing over it because you can't get there on time. This Ogre Lord can be gotten to on time, and therefore it's an interesting point of friction. But say, for instance, that I'm here when I decide to go for this camp, and my opponent is here when he notices that I'm here going for this camp. It may not be worth it for him to travel all the way like so, or all the way like so to try and creepjack me. So instead, he will go for his Ogre Lord, while I go for my Ogre Lord. So we're now trading 50-50 and splitting the map. That is also an interesting decision. And what's even more interesting is if your opponent is here when you go for the Ogre Lord. Because now he has a real choice. Creepjack you, he's pretty close, 15 seconds away. Or if he thinks he's too weak, he will take his own camp. But it also takes him 15 seconds to get here. So now if you finish this fast enough, you may be able to backstab your opponent at the tail end of him creeping that camp.
The timing and statistics to be known as you're playing Warcraft 3 ROC. That's one of the reasons why I actually really do enjoy ROC, just because the level of thinking that it takes for RTS, real-time strategy game. You know what I mean?
Very interesting map, I think, Last Refuge. I think, for me, the least favorite part is that all of the corridors are relatively narrow. Let's use a measurement unit.
So with narrow corridors, it all depends on how you play them. Because if you have towers set up behind corridor walls, you're able to aggro pull towards, or if they're trying to rush and push in towards you, you have a bit of a backup, and it's a narrow space, kind of like in the movie 300. You have a narrow space that you're able and capable of defending and pegging units off one at a time depending on how you position your units, because you're going to have to macro your units ridiculous styles, because it's a small corridor for yourself as well. After they get like over the threshold and it opens up and you can start pegging them and it stops their units from entering, you know, it gives you a little bit more of an opportunity for experience and also dwindling the opponent's army.
Torrents. How many torrents wide do you think this opening is? I think it's maybe 5, 6, or 7 torrents wide. That feels like a lot of torrents, but well, anyway, you're not going to make torrents because they're kind of bad. But it is not a very wide opening. It is difficult from here to get to the archers that are here, that are behind heroes or bears.
Yeah.
And there's another thing. Last Refuge is not a good moment and not a good game. You won't have a good time to go for.
I'm gonna keep it at a B.
So a lot of people maybe don't fully know what hit and run is, so let me explain. If both players think they are stronger than an opponent, they could just have a fight and they could let their micromanagement and their battle management determine who is going to be the winner. Both thought they are stronger, and so they fight, and then one player wins the fight and then wins the game off the back of it. If both players think they're weaker, they will avoid each other and try to extract value from the map in various places by doing either creeping or economy, disruption, and base attacks. Then, if they sense the other player is coming, they will avoid each other, right? But if one player thinks he's stronger, if player A thinks he's stronger than B, and B agrees, and B thinks A is stronger than B as well, then A will try to posture aggressively, steal enemy creep camps, stand in competitive places of important friction and high-level objectives, whereas player B will try to avoid, take smaller prizes on the fringes of the map, run away, or do base attacks only to run away the moment that that base is getting defended. This is an interesting thing. Warcraft 3 is an RTS where every unit matters and heroes matter. In an RTS, if you start falling behind and you lose maybe
especially
some
the levels of
skirmishes, you lose a bit more value, you lose some units, you're lower level, it is possible that you would just lose off the back of it because you now have less stuff, which means you can get less stuff. He has more stuff, so he can get more stuff off of that. So what is important in game design is that there are going to be ways that you can come back into a game, either through, let's say, evasive maneuvers, which I call hit and run, which I just described, or through other mechanics, such as upkeep management, which I will not go into this time because that would also take me 2 hours. So comeback mechanics are nice if they are not overly powerful. You wouldn't want to create a comeback mechanic where somebody loses 1 unit and then the gods give him 20 units as a sorry and a thank you, right? Then everyone would want to fall behind because the comeback mechanic is a rubber band of strength. So a little bit of comeback mechanics is good, especially if it requires skill to achieve the comeback mechanic, right? It shouldn't just exist, here you go, but it should be like, if you have but the wits to apply this stratagem, then that should be able to regain you some lost advantage. And that's what hit and runs often are. Hit and runs speak a message of destruction in your base. You must then come and defend because you don't want to lose all your workers. But then the assailant runs away again when you start either town portaling or walking back. And then...
That's a waste of a town portal, right? Or
that is interesting because you know you're stronger, but he just won't fight you. Stand and turn around and fight me, coward. And the coward says, no. And then you're like, shucks, I wish you would. And he's like, well, I'm not going to. And then that could just go on and on. That is relatively interesting usually to happen, but that is not very possible in Last Refuge. Why not? Why is it not possible? This is a main base. There are only 2 ways to attack it. 3 ways. Through this corridor and through this corridor. And the way to evaluate if a map is good for hit and run is to see how long does it take for an attacker to switch from channel A to channel B to channel C, the different channels that lead to a base. And this is how long it takes. We go all the way from let's say he is looking to attack here, but there's a defense here, right? So he's attacking here, but the hand is defending the finger. So then the finger's like, all right, well, I'll just go over here. You're pushing me out, so I'll just go over here. Now I need to go all the way around this forest, all the way around here, a huge circle around, and the hand doesn't need to do anything. This is the...
Well, like, also depending, because if they end up having it blocked on both sides, right? Well, one side will be more protected than the other side because they're expecting it from this way, because you have this in the middle where you're able to get a second hero from the shop. So it's like expected this side, but I would split it into two so that you can come down. They'll focus up here as you run away and you dab and dip, try to hit them up. But as that's going on, let's say that the battle is happening right about here, and you can aggro and pull them a little bit, and your opponent wants to send some out just to watch, plus they'll probably send some out, scout around. But as that's going on, that's when you send in your second unit to go in. But if they have defense over here, you could bypass that defense because it has a specific window, like he was talking about with the creeps and the leash. It has a specific window of distance that like a tower can hit, and a good majority of the time it'd be like you could surpass the towers and go straight towards the mine, and you could mess up their income.
The worst game of Pong ever. This isn't fair at all. The hand doesn't even need to move, right? So you can just position yourself here as a defender, and the finger hasn't got a chance. So now the finger, what does he do? He stays here, right? The second condition for why hit and run is good is if along the way of going from channel A to B, there are hobbies and errands on the way, right? Because you want to make your return time to the enemy base unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
I'm attacking you through channel A, you're defending. Okay, cool, I'm leaving. You think, maybe he's gonna attack me through channel B, I'm just gonna stay put. But while I'm here, I'm like, hey, do I really need to go back? I think hand is still gonna be there. So I'll creep this camp, and I'm gonna creep this camp, and then I'm gonna go here. And just as the hand gave up and is like, well, I don't think it's coming anymore, I'm just gonna go away. Ha-ha! Now I'm attacking to channel B! Right? So hobbies on the way are good. And if there's no hobbies, if the area is destitute, then the hit and runner is wasting time, or at least as much time as the hand is, the defender. On Last Refuge, this camp tends to disappear fast. So does this, this, and this, and this. The camps that usually remain are the fringes. This one, this, and this. And mirrored on the other side. This,
Yeah.
this, and this. Those camps are too far away for the center area of control that the hit and runner has. So not only does the attacker need to move far more distance in order to attack through the other channel, but also there are almost no hobbies on the way as they are wrapping around. That makes Last Refuge a very defensive map in a way. It is defensive, it's good for ranged units because they cannot be easily flanked. It is bad for hit and runners, and that makes me as an orc not like this map very well. I tend to veto this map away when I'm looking to optimize my win chances. However, I do think it's a good map. I do think it creates interesting
I'd give it
games.
a B.
I love the layout, and therefore I'm going to rank it in, what do you guys think? It's going to go to tier A.
Tier A, nice.
I think it creates good games. Yes, A and B. Yep.
I was between
Alright,
those two,
next
but
up,
I brought it back
Concealed
down to a B.
Hill. Where does Concealed Hill...
So my reasoning for it being onto a B for myself is just the spacing in the map overall, because it's more concentrated towards the middle, and I could potentially change my mind after using human, right? I'm thinking more so for undead. Yeah. Just thinking about it for undead is I don't find it viable for undead for myself. But you might have a different opinion about it. If you do, feel free. Let me know.
I think it creates good games. Yes, A and B. Yep. Alright, next up, Concealed Hill. Where does Concealed Hill rank? Concealed
Hill. You got 3 big ones. 2, 4, 6, 8 yellows. 1, 2, and 6 smaller creeps. It's twisty. There's a middle path, right? There's 1, 2, 3 different channels that you can actually get to who you need to. You got a gold mine in the middle. You do have hero shops on each side so that you'd actually be able to get the hero. They could get the hero at the same time. You could convert in the middle. It's a dope map. I haven't really played too much on this map, so I can't really say anything. For me, I would have to, I don't know, we'll see how he describes it and see what I'd be able to utilize from the map. Once again, I'm looking at it from like an undead point of view kind of thing. I'd have to give it a C for the moment.
Concealed Hill is a relatively new map as well. I remember playing this for more than 4 years, but fewer than 15.
If you look at the layout too, it almost looks like a spider. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the body.
Where does Concealed Hill go? So first of all, I kind of like this map as an orc player. Why? Because it has unique elements. The unique element being healing fountains. Now, a lot of maps, as you'll see later when we cover Lost Temple and Nullwood, a lot of maps in Warcraft 3 that were designed by Blizzard, the fountain is always in the center.
Usually.
And that is not a good idea, usually. The center is an area of high friction because both players have the equal distance traveling to get to the center. But it also means that if someone ever takes map control, they will occupy the fountain and then they will have an equidistant travel path to anywhere on the map. Imagine that's the mountain lion sitting on top of the mountain with a perfect view and a higher speed than you and a higher lethality than you, and you're looking to sneak off to the edges, but it doesn't work because they can cut you off anywhere. And anytime that you attack into them, they've got the high ground, they've got the healing fountain. Anytime they attack into you, they're full life, right? And you're hurt. Anytime they pull back from the center, they pull back to the center, away from attacking you, they have the fountain to fall back on. I love that as an orc player. I love central healing fountains, like Lost Temple and Maelstrom and Nullwood. It is so strong for orc. It is so good, and it's so bad for undead usually against orc to have that. Because you know what? Healing fountains have percentage-based healing. That means it's really good for high health, low quantity units, such as Tauren Chieftain, Tauren, Kodo Beast, Grunt, Raider. They're all over 600 health, sometimes over 1,000, and that's great. You try to heal there with ghouls, it doesn't have the same effectiveness as with grunts. So orcs love fighting at fountains. That's why central healing fountains are, by design and balance, a bad idea. However, as an orc, I love it. On Concealed Hill, they did it a little differently. First of all, they've made it so that it's not a complete King of the Hill crapshoot with the center player having fountain control and can control the whole map. First of all, there's 2 healing fountains. So if one player occupies one healing fountain, the other player can go to the other. So there's more equanimity of healing, more equality. Secondly, the fountains are off to the side. So whereas before healing fountain felt like free healing, now it doesn't feel free anymore. Why? Well, it is still free in terms of money, right? You don't have to spend gold on healing now, which orc normally has to do. But it is not free because of the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Right? Almost all the creeps on this map are spread out on the side of the map. Small camp, big camp, huge camp, small camp, big camp, medium camp, and then huge camp in the middle, right? So most of the big to medium camps are on the side, and you've got some small greens in the middle, you've got this one big camp in the middle, but once the big camp in the middle is gone, you typically tend to congregate around the side, and that makes, usually, even if you've cleared out the fountain before, just, let's say you're fighting here, right? Having to send units to a cleared fountain where the creeps are dead, maybe this fountain isn't done yet, it's really far away, usually. It's a lot of opportunity cost to just go here with your whole army to start healing, because your opponent might contest the middle spot, they might take some good camps on the edge, and you're just too far away.
And not only that, but like, let's say your opponent is attacking one of the health fountains there, and then you could harass as they're attacking, where you could actually get the camp from underneath them and then get the cheese from the bread, whatever the drop is.
So it is a much better idea to have a corner healing fountain or an edge healing fountain like here. Secondly, it is very well guarded, so it's not easy to creep it. The period of time during which you are trying to clear it to make it available for yourself is much larger, and therefore it carries a higher threat. And that is a better implementation of healing fountain mechanics than on most maps in the past. I give a plus mark for that. Secondly, the Ogre Lord position in the center is a very interesting friction point. But overall, I don't think this is a great map regardless. I don't think there's enough creeps on the map. It would benefit if there were 2 to 4 more creep camps on the map. Symmetrically so. So maybe 4 more creep camps or 8 more creep camps. If the map was a little thicker in some way, I think that's a bit of a problem on Concealed Hill. Secondly, there's not enough creeps on the map, there's not enough items to drop on the map to really spruce up like a Blade Master or a Demon Hunter, which is a pity. Thirdly, I don't like the layout too much. Basically, on Concealed Hill, it takes a long time to get anywhere. The rush distance is rather large, like a minute to the enemy main base from your own main base.
That's what I was thinking. Like, that's what it seems like.
That it's not very rushy, it's quite defensive. Also, it is very common to find yourself creeping somewhere here, and your opponent is creeping somewhere here. And because there's these 2 large cut-off forests protecting, it takes way too long to get around, which makes it not incentivizing to go mess with your opponent. This reduces action and reduces friction, and that reduces skill expression. Because now you're playing your single-player game, and I'm playing my single-player game. We're doing our own creeping, and it's pretty much just see where the coin rolls and falls, who has a little bit more advantage, who has a bit better items. It is not as much tug of war. I find this...
Essentially, just don't get lost in the sauce, right? Because I've actually noticed that about some players too, where they'll get too... I've done it, I'm guilty of it too, where they'll focus solely on creeping and not necessarily forget about their opponent, but not think of them as so much as a threat compared to like trying to level your heroes. And then if you're losing units as you're doing the creep, they could just come up and around, dab you up, touch up your base and stuff like that, and then like dip out, hit you from the 2 sides if they want, even third, head back to the fountain. And then like by the time they head back to the fountain, what did he say? It's about like 15-20 seconds from the fountain to the next base. So, you know, that dap and dip stuff would end up hitting you pretty severely.
Who has a bit better
you
items.
Would need to get towers.
It is not as much tug of war. I find this map ultimately strategically unsatisfying. I also don't think it's the most balanced. If I can gain control of the healing fountain, I still have a large advantage as an orc player. I can mass raiders and then just keep controlling the fight and fall back and heal. I love doing that, but I don't think it's very balanced sometimes. Also, if you have proactive creeping races such as Night Elf and Human, I think it's too easy, especially to just secure an expansion. It's so far away from the opponent you can just... The expansion is, for what it's worth, quite tough, so you can disrupt them as they're taking it. But it's very easy for this map to become a 2 versus 2 base slugfest where both players aren't hyper incentivized to attack each other because it's so far away. And yeah, I've just seen and played too many uninteresting games on this map. I think there's a number of design issues, so I'm gonna rank Concealed Hill for C.
I gave it a C too.
But it's not interesting enough usually. There's very few epic games here because Healing Fountain control tends to snowball regardless. Next up, Springtime, also made by the community, and maybe you guys know someone who worked on this. His name is Save Orcas, and he has been a member of the community and my community for a long time. And
I always love community maps because it's the community that understands what it is that the players want to be able to play with, right? We're going to hear him break it down a little bit. I've played on this map maybe twice. It's a pretty big map. It's fairly big. Has some nice creeps on it. I'd give it about an A for Undead. I would give it about an A for my style of play for Undead.
And it's actually brought me a number of strategies, even though he doesn't actually play the game. He just watches, and he's got a good mind for the game, and he keeps testing out things versus AI without an opponent, just sandboxing by himself to optimize build orders. Springtime is partially his product as well, and I like the map. I don't think it's perfect. Yeah, I think this map is pretty interesting. So first of all, you have one expansion location for both players. This is the main base, here's the expansion, and likewise mirrored on the other side. And then you have this interesting concept of a singular third gold mine for either player. So there's 5 total gold mines on the map, which necessarily creates a potential tiebreaker in the economic standoff where neither player is getting ahead. I think tiebreakers are important. I prefer usually to have 6 gold mines or more on the map, because then either player has the chance to get the third base, or maybe both do. Here it is a very difficult to contest, let's say difficult to establish third base opportunity. Whoever takes this base must be massively ahead. There's been rare cases where it does get taken in nitty-gritty moments, but overall it's just too close to the opponent, basically equidistant, to actually establish this without a massive advantage, where you would have probably been able to finish by just attacking as well. But the map has a lot of creeps. You see a lot of circles. It takes quite a while to exhaust the whole map of all creeps, which creates a lot of interesting tension moments. I think unlike Concealed Hill, there are many different places to go to, many different ways to go to every place. So you can go here, and then there's a forest blocker here, you can go around it, but you can also go like this, you can go like this and then here, but you can also go like this and then here. And the reason that's good is because it just creates more nuance to how everyone can walk. If you had, like on Last Refuge, this large pyramid-shaped block of area where you can't walk, it would become quite boring too. In a way, I think that's the greatest weakness for Last Refuge, not being able to hit and run like this. Springtime has more maneuvering ability. And
yeah, it's more CCing, and you could even tell by the way how the creeps are set up. It's probably a little bit harder to do creep jacks as well. As your opponent's trying to do a creep, you come through and you kind of bully them out so that you're able to get the drops and or XP that you're dealing with.
And I like it. I think it has a lot of good elements, this map. The one major thing I don't like on Springtime is that there's a mercenary camp right next to the main. I think that's something that should be avoided on every single map, because if you Ancient of War creep this, or if you Militia creep this, you immediately and permanently have access to a second barracks of free unit, well, not free, but...
Makes sense. What I would do too, I would take the red and switch these two, right? So it's like you can go for it if you wanted to, but it's out of the way, where this would be a better creep route where you could either take this direction over or this direction over, or if you wanted to like split up about here, boom, boom, and then as you finish this one, you send some units as you've already sent some units waiting for your hero to come back up and around, even though you could actually just send your units over and your hero will gain the XP regardless, and then they'll come together over here to take this and then do the expansion. Then from the expansion, it's just the way how I see it if I was playing Undead, from the expansion to be able to come straight down and across, or you could cut right over, right?
But free unit time production, because you mercenaries hire instantly. However, I don't think that this creep camp has an abolish creep, if I'm correct. The priest here only heals, and that is actually so much more okay than on maps where you can hire an early dispelling creep, right? So yeah, it's instant units, not free but instant, that's right. So when it comes to creating accessible route to an early mercenary camp, normally I find it a problem. By not having a creep that can dispel at you know, the start of the game, you basically remove something that could break the balance. So I think this is honestly one of the better maps we have in the pool. It's very pleasant to play on this. I've actually had a lot of epic games on Springtime. That is also going to go to tier A for me.
Nice.
There was a lot of thought into making this map a good classic, but still feel new and different from all the others. Next up, Plunder Isles. Plunder Isles is kind of a throwback to a long time ago. This map is rightly so not in the map pool anymore. Here's Plunder Isles.
So Plunder Isles, I've loved this map back in the day. We've played 1v1s on it already. Like, I have a couple 1v1s that people could probably go back, take a look from playing on this. I like playing this against a computer more so for practice, right? For creep routes and all that. Back in ROC, it was, I'm pretty sure, either ROC or TFT when it came out. It was a prevalent map that people were using for 1v1s. Like, someone would challenge you in your clan, or you'd have little clan wars and whatever, clan battles, and it'd be a 1v1. You'd have a bunch of people spectating, watching, figuring out what people are doing, giving people strategy, so on and so forth, right? Not only that, but because there's a bunch of low-level creeps to do, it also helps with gathering resources, income, right off the rip, right? That helps you pretty much stabilize at the beginning of the game, depending on how fast you're able to produce your units, produce your buildings, and raise your buildings from level 1s to level 2, so on and so forth.
Plunder Isles is an obscenely long map. It is weird. This map was played from 2002.
I'd give it a B.
2004.
Like top B.
Even then, we
Bottom
knew it's
A.
bad, and we just stopped playing it. I remember playing this map in Reign of Chaos, back when tower creeping.
It was
a
Reign of
thing.
Chaos.
You would basically put 3 towers here right away,
Yeah.
and they would kill the red dragon level 10. Your blade would just be AFK next to it. You would get XP from those towers. That's how it works back in Reign of Chaos.
Yeah.
You would just kill all the towers.
I miss
all
Reign of
the
Chaos.
creeps, because the towers were fortified armor, so they didn't die to the dragon. You would then instant level up from level 1.0 to 3.
Yeah.
And then you would grab Staff of Mastery, and you would go to the opponent's base and steal 2 abominations or 3 abominations or something. It was so funny. Plunder Isles is an incredibly imbalanced map. Yeah, it's not balanced at all. So first,
let's bring it
there are
down
2
to a C.
expansion locations in the very far corner that just feels completely by itself. It's so long to travel to it without anything interesting on the way. No remarkable features whatsoever. So this expo is usually like a late game thing. Nobody goes to this corner almost ever, and nobody goes to this corner. It's just too far away. Most of the action is concentrated around this area and this area, right? This is a kind of uninteresting camp. This is too far. This camp is relatively common. This camp is too hard. So you pretty much just end up fighting over like the middle in the early game. But the problem is that's your only choice, because rushing your opponent, it's a 65-second rush distance or so, which is too far. It means that
it's over a minute.
When you reach with level 1 hero, your opponent is almost level 2.
I'm curious to know what the best timing for a rush map is. Is it 35 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, anything under a minute? You know what I mean? If it goes over a minute, I wouldn't really consider it to be a rush map. I would consider it to be a CC map as a rush. So it'd be like, as you're producing units, the only way how I could see these being viable is, pardon me, if you wanted to do like a creep encounter rush, you go up, boom, boom, probably over here in the middle, just to see, because you'll probably end up running into them. You could take that, or you could take the other way around if you wanted to, because then you could be like boom, boom, creep around and up, or you could even take this way up, because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I have seen people start setting up bases off to the sides.
That when you reach with level 1 hero, your opponent is almost level 2. Additionally, none of the creeps, the small green creeps here, really connect well to each other. For instance, if you go here as your first camp, where do you go next?
Yeah.
This is not a path.
No.
You'd have to go all the way back around.
So it'd be like boom, 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 or boom, boom, boom. And if you're creeping down, you could get it for extra gold if you wanted to, but you could actually leave it and then continue your way down. And over to here, you get this creep, and then you could actually make your way over here, or you could just straight go to the middle.
Circle back.
Once again,
You know,
chances
back
of
to where you
running
came
into
from,
an
which is
enemy
bad
is
feng
pretty
shui.
high.
You don't want to travel like that. Where do you go next? Level 10 dragon? No. Can't go here. This is a loop back. This is too far. Where do you go next? Here? Okay. Well, there's nothing to do here. I can't get here because it's on the high ground. This path is not open. This is a cliff. So you just keep going. Oh, I go here, I guess. Right? So you get level 1.3 from this, and this is level 2.2 now, or 2.3. But now you're like so far away from everything that matters. It's just such a bad map. It's made in a long time ago. It's not balanced. It's not even...
So like to play this map, it's usually like boom, boom, creep in here so that you can get this. As you're creeping this, you could pull that because you could have a couple towers over here plus the shop. And then from the shop, because you're going to have to backtrack up and around and out, it'd be like backtrack up and around and out, come over here, and then try to make your way down.
remotely balanced. There will always be one player that wants to veto this map away. I still love it though, in a way that it is iconic, it's nostalgic. I had some cool games here, one particular against SK Insomnia, who is a Bulgarian world champion.
Give it a 3.
But I will never pretend to say that this was a good map. This one goes straight to the dumpster. Tier D for dumpster. Awful map. Next up, Lost Temple.
Lost Temple for me, S tier 100%. It's a super equal, fair map. 1v1. You could even do FFAs with it. All of that good stuff. For me, S tier. It's a classic from ROC. We used to use it all the time for our clan battles to do like certain cups. It would mostly be Lost Temple, Twisted Meadows, and Turtle Island. Where is it? Turtle Rock. So it'd be like Lost Temple, Turtle Rock, Twisted Meadows is how we used to play it a good majority of the time against other clans.
Lost Temple is a lifelong tradition for Blizzard. They have a Lost Temple in Brood War, and I loved it. They have a Lost Temple in Warcraft 3, and I love it. They even made new versions of Lost Temple in Warcraft 3. There's so many versions actually of Lost Temple. You've got Lost Temple Prime, you had Neo Lost Temple, you have, there we go.
Variations of Lost Temple as well, that's crazy.
Which had pretty much the exact same layout and almost the same creeps, except they are the ice version. But the one that I'll be addressing here is just standard Lost Temple ladder version, the standard LT. And Lost Temple is iconic.
Yeah.
First of all, I remember many great games on this map.
Many.
But secondly, it is not even remotely balanced. Name any matchup and I can tell you who would veto this. Orc against human, favorite for human, but acceptable for orc.
Yeah.
Both players may choose to go to this map.
It's not the best
Orc
for
versus
undead.
orc. Both players are fine. Orc undead, undead vetoes it. They're not going to play on this. And if they play on this, they'll pick orc as well. Orc versus night elf. Usually orc is happy with that. You get a free creep to level 2.
Yep.
Except if teal is matched by a purple opponent. There was always a chance, 33%, that your opponent is in one of any of these 3 X's. Right? There was no forced cross map. So there was this horrible RNG about if you're purple, you get a free expansion, and teal would have their expansion basically matched in distance to the opponent's main. An awful feeling. That means purple first scouts here, sees, hey, teal is here, and then teal is like, well, I don't know, my race is forced to fast expand in this matchup in general, so I'm still gonna do it. And the purple is like, cool story, bro. And this completely ends up smashing the attempt.
Yeah.
Teal cannot go to this place. This is too far.
Way too far.
So,
so back in the day when I used to play Orc, what I would do, which was a really good strategy, if you started up here, or even down here, right, So this is a red creep, right? You can set up over here an orc burrow and a tower, right? So as you're making your hero, it's building the tower just before your hero pops. And then you put an orc, you could even do 2 burrows, right? And put a peon in one burrow, a peon in another burrow. Torn Chieftain is usually the one that you want to rock with, just because his defense and life overall. And you could take it with 2 grunts. And then you just pull them. You'll have your 2 orc burrows shooting. That'll end up doing damage. And then obviously they'll fall back, but they'll always end up aggroing about halfway through, and then they'll come back and they'll try to attack your burrows, right? Which gives you the opportunity to attack the ogre, like a level 7 ogre, I think, level 7 or 9.
It was just so OP, so imbalanced. First thing you did was always check if you have the lucky opening spawn. Now, if you're purple and you're like, let's see if human is here. Ah, he's not here. I'll keep scouting. Ah, he's not here either. He was actually below me, and his expansion is already finished.
It's a waste of
now
time.
I've lost. It's so imbalanced. And Lost Temple has one of the greatest offenders ever. There's a healing fountain in the middle that is extremely well connected to every part of the map. Northeast, southwest entrances. That means if you can control the spice, you control Arrakis. No, wait, let me see. You control the universe. No. If you control the healing fountain, you control Lost Temple. You can attack Red's main. Oh, you know, we had a great fight. We're both bleeding. I'll run back to the fountain and I'm full life again. Attack again. Ah, attrition. I'll go back here, I'm full again. It's so OP if you control this map.
Yeah.
Which is why usually as Orc, you would just mass Raiders. As Night Elf, you could just mass Huntresses. And then take map control in that way. And human usually couldn't do the same, but at least they could take an expansion. And undead couldn't do anything. Undead in that time couldn't fast expand.
So with undead, what it is you have to come through the middle and you have to take all the greens, essentially, or at least half of all the greens over here. Well, like 1 extra, right? Because it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get those 5, and then you could either push up here or down here. It's almost like a waste of time because you might even see them coming up over here. You might see them creeping from behind, or you might see them coming down if you're trying to go for this creep here as undead. The only thing, pardon me, that's dope about undead is the scroll of necromancy, where when you're coming out you have like 2 ghouls. There's usually like a pig or a sheep over here that you could muck off. Use that scroll of necromancy, get your +2 skeletons to come through, and you get them to start taking the damage. But because early game they don't have any buffs, they're pretty weak, they're susceptible to getting knocked out real quick. It happens, right? Where you have to like CC them correctly. You're gonna have to macro them correctly, back and forth, so that they don't take too much damage on top of your ghouls. But the thing about the ghouls is, by the time that you're over here doing that, you should have 3 to 4 ghouls going, 2 ghouls with you, and then when they're down, you send your ghoul back as you send a ghoul towards you, because by the time you end up sending the ghoul back, it'll start healing right away as soon as it hits that undead ground, and then by the time you want to come back or switch out another ghoul, that ghoul's health will be back to full.
And they could also not take
it's
map
complicated
control with slow ghouls and tier
for
1,
Night
slow
Elf.
ghouls
For undead.
Fiends. Undead was just screwed on this map in every single matchup.
Pretty much.
So they played Orc instead. That doesn't sound like a good map to you, and it doesn't sound like a good map to me. However, I will never put Lost Temple in tier D because it created so many good games.
It's
and
S
it's
tier
really
for
fun
me.
to play on. I even
Just
like
because
this as
nostalgia,
any of the 4
legendary
races.
map,
I've played
ROC
here very
days.
happily as Elf, as
So many
human, as
tournaments.
Orc, and I still think it's interesting challenge as Undead, but my salary or prize money never relied on this because I didn't play Undead competitively on Lost Temple.
Northern
I
Isles is a
imagine I
really
would
good
like it
map
a whole
too.
lot less if I had been a main Undead. The Lost Temple should be a tier C. Amazonia below LT is actually hilarious. LT is a much better map. At least it's interesting. I didn't even talk about the corners yet, which are this elusive, hard to reach red spot that in some games you will get to. The fact.
So that's something else to play as undead on Lost Temple. Humans and orcs will go get this, even night elves, right? They'll go for there. You can go for there if you wanted to as undead, but if you're doing that, you're going to have to end up purchasing that land that you have to drop so that you can actually build a couple ziggurats to start building towers up, just to help you, because ghouls are weak compared to like grunts. Archers are hella weak, but you're not really going to have to rely on your archers taking those hits, because you're going to end up having a tanky hero that's going to be able to take those hits for you, or end up getting huntresses with a couple archers in the back, and the huntresses could pretty much tank that. For human, obviously militia, footies, and rifles if you wanted to, but realistically you're going to be rushing with footies, archmage, and militia.
That even in a 1-on-1,
Fast
as
expansion.
imbalanced as it is, if it gets past the 20-minute mark, Lost Temple can become freaking epic. There are so many gold mines on this map. You could play a 4-player FFA on this map. Instead, you're playing 1-on-1.
And also, like I was saying, so for undead, it's like you do that, and then you could either push up if they're in there. You could push this way and see if they've gotten this one. And like right after that, you could even push up into here. So let's say that your base is here, you're undead, you're purple. You could push all that up and over, and by the time you hit here, you're obviously going to lose 3 to 4 skeletons that you have made from the necromancy rod. And then trying to run up here, you have to pray that you have at least 4 to 5 that are going to last at least a little bit to take out one of the creeps there, so that you could pop a necromancy again to give you the +2 for an extra 2 unit skeletons that you're able to use and actually take it over. And by that time, you're going to be sending over one of your peons over there to start building the gold mine, right?
That's how grand of a scheme you can have unfold on Lost Temple. And for that reason, it is definitely better than Amazonia. Because you have secret expos in the corner, secret expo in another corner. You could secret expo on one of the main base spots. There was this one time where I was playing against Kriolofus in a ladder game. He was my teammate and a very smart man, Norwegian two-time world champion in 2007. And an hour before we played that ladder game, I had seen a replay from some night elf on some website. And what I did back in those days, anytime I wake up, I turn on the PC, I download every game that has been played and uploaded on any replay site. I download everything, 20, 30, 40 replays, right? They had some sorting process. They don't upload just anyone's games, just high-level games. So I download all the games that have been uploaded for the day, and I watch all of them during breakfast, right? So one of those games, and I don't know who else does that, but one of those games, it was a night elf, and he did a fast expansion with the secret tree of life on one of the main spots. And I had just seen that, and then I met Creo in Lost Temple, and I thought, I think you are also a studying player. I think you're studying, and you're a nerd like me. And I thought, I bet he has seen the replay too. It's only an hour ago, but I bet he's seen it. Let's go scout the main base. I never scout the main base. Let's go see if he's doing the ninja expansion. I knew it! There he is! and it's only because he did the same replay watching that's why he did it. He wanted to try it out, but guess what? I'd seen it too.
That's
it was
funny.
really fun.
Smart.
A lot of cool different things that can happen on Lost Temple. I almost feel like I should put it in tier B, just because there's so many cool games, even though it's unbalanced as hell. I'm just gonna do it. Who's gonna stop me? Make your own tier list. Make your own tier list.
Yeah.
For me, it's a tier B. Okay, next. Northern Isle.
Northern Isles is a really fun map, especially for humans. For humans, it's about a tier A, tier S. For undead, I'm going to say it's around a tier B, tier A. Orcs, probably roughly the same. And Night Elves, you could actually call that a tier S. In my opinion.
Northern Isles is a new, modern map from, for all I know, 2018 or later. I can't really keep apart whether it was 2016, 17, or 18. All I know is Northern Isles was not around up to 2010, but it's been around since 2018.
Yeah.
Northern Isles is a pretty interesting map. Let's take a look at the big blow-up.
It's pretty fun, man.
Northern Isles has no mercenary camp.
Nope.
It has a goblin laboratory here and here. There's a marketplace, which is a unique feature that does not often feature on Warcraft 3 maps. The marketplace is something I haven't talked about yet. It's another doodad building that allows you to purchase items,
Get
both
items.
consumables and permanents. The items it drops are anything that you could find on this very map.
So, like, let's say, as an undead player, right, I would go here, well, even as an orc, right, if I were to play orc here, I would get up to here until our altar is done, and it gives us the opportunity to get a hero. I would go Beastmaster, and I would try to take this camp out with 3 grunts and a Beastmaster, plus whatever unit it is that you're using as a Beastmaster. It can be a boar, a bear, or an eagle. I would choose the bear just because it's a higher defense, more tanky kind of unit. You'd be able to take this, and then by the time you take this, not only would you end up getting an item that were to drop, you'd be able to purchase an item to increase the attack right away. And then it's also half the distance to get over to your enemy's base. So like undead would be building, and then like you'd end up having to wait for your hero after building the altar, where it's like you should just straight come to the middle, get a hero here if you're undead, just so that you're able to do this. Same with orc, right? So that you could get this out the way, plus you can probably end up getting something that's like +8 to attack or something like that. Or if you want to go the defensive route and you're going for like a really high defense tanky kind of hero to take those hits, more so like Night Elf and stuff, right?
It's not going to sell you a Mask of Death because you cannot find a Mask of Death on this map. There is some formula that I still don't know the exact inner workings of, but I know how.
So just after what I said about that, for me, this map is like a bottom tier A. It's like bottom tier B. I'm just gonna call it tier B for myself, or like a bottom tier A. Just if I would to be able to get that hero to pop right away, end up getting this shop right away, so that I could come over here, because usually they'll go for the expansion. You check the expansion, and if they're already done the expansion, like creeping the expansion and sending something over here, whether it's an acolyte, a peon, or whatever, to start trying to build a base up, they should usually be over here or over here, one of the two, unless they want to creep up too, right? Because there's 3 different routes that you can go, and then it's like boom, 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 boom. You could go straight up and over if you wanted to, go boom, boom, boom. You could even go like boom, boom, and cut across if you wanted to, because this is a high priority area in order to get items for your heroes. Yo, C Nice, welcome back.
Some formula that I still don't know the exact inner workings of, but I know how it feels and roughly how it manifests. If an item level 1 permanent has been found somewhere on the map, then seconds later the marketplace will reveal an option that is the equivalent level, though not necessarily the identical item, of that camp. So the marketplace is also a bit of a gossipy tavern. After all, if I start the game with a Blade Master and I walk here and I walk here and I walk here and I walk here, and I get here at 2 minutes and 22 seconds, and he crept this at 2 minutes and 10 seconds, I look at the marketplace and I see Claws of Attack is for sale. I now instantly know that my opponent has crept a Claws of Attack equivalent creep. That's
crazy.
That's a Wand of Illusion. This
I
is
didn't
a
even
Mantle
know
of
that.
Intelligence. This is a Scroll of the Beast, and this is a Pendant of Energy. Within the entire hemisphere of the opponent's base, the whole quadrant of the map, this is the only clause. So if at 2 minute 22 I get here, I know he crept this. So that is a information from the gossipy tavern. It's like, hey, wanna buy a clause? I'm like, where did you get that clause? How did you know how to purvey such an item? And they're like, word on the street is, your opponent has been creeping Claws of Attack. I'm like, Very interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Now I know.
Anyway,
now we know.
Very interesting. So he's been creeping Claws of Attack Camp, you say? All right, I know where he's gonna be next. It's here, isn't it? Right. So you can draw conclusions on that, and that's interesting. And
then same with as he's saying, as a beast, as a blade master, if you do get the claws, knowing that they crept there, because you have your wind walk, you'd be able to actually go and creep jack.
Isn't it?
As you have a pair of claws
you can
yourself.
draw conclusions on that, and that's interesting. And the second part is it's not the arcane information you can get from the marketplace only. It's also the fact that you can buy them. Right? No longer do you have to say, "Oh shucks, I missed out. I showed up at Chuck E. Cheese at 9 minutes before closing."
I'll call it
they're
an A
all
tier.
out of
I enjoy the map.
That sucks.
I'm gonna call it
you
an
can
A
just go
tier.
to the marketplace. You can buy as much cheese as anyone else bought.
Just
right?
because of that marketplace.
Like there's an unlimited supply. It keeps restocking and everything. Open 24/7. So if you missed out on all the Claws of Attack items, then maybe you can buy some claws at the marketplace. Full price, of course. No take backs, no discount. But if you want it, you can buy it. You can even buy a Scourge Bone Champs there.
Yep.
Right. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with extra gold on this map. That's number 2 thing that I liked about marketplace. What else do I like? The map has a lot of paths. Many paths equals good. Many paths equals dynamic decision making. Large movement blockers equals bad. Boo. Big movement blockers, boo. Because now it's never worth it to go fight my opponents. I can't get to them on time. This map is ranking well in connectability, right? Then you've got interesting tension moments. Ogre here. No, it's a Magnetar. I like it because we don't see a lot of Magnetars on Warcraft Melee map. It's cool. They're big badasses, right? So you've got one level 8 creep here, you've got a level 8 creep here. Either you split it. I take this, you take that. Or we're fighting for it from 2 different paths. Very interesting. Every creep camp has a logical lead up to something else. You can do orange, hard camp, and then you can go to the green. Oh, it's pretty close. Now you can take this, right? Or you can do green. Green over here, then this green, then this. It's all pretty well connected, right? Or you can do one green, then expo, this green, then expo, or you could start the game, take this green, this, and then go into the map, right?
Yep.
So there's all kinds of decisions, which is so much better than on a map like
Makes it more
Shield
interesting.
Hill, where you've got very few decisions, and so it's very binary. Northern Isles is a great map. It is pretty well balanced in all matchups. It's usually not deleted or vetoed, and it also has many epic games. It's a
A-tier.
6 gold
Yes,
mine
sir.
map, and that is better than a 4 gold mine map, and it's better than a 5 gold mine map. Terrain-wise, it's good. Balance-wise, it's good. Interesting games, lots of decisions, enough creep camps. It is a tier A for show, for show.
Turtle Rock's next. So between Lost Temple and Turtle Rock, for me, they're both S tiers.
All right, next up, Turtle Rock. Where does Turtle Rock go? Let me start with the summary before I go down to the nitty-gritty. I'll blow up a picture of Turtle Rock and I'll tell you the summary, because I got very strong opinions on Turtle Rock, and they've been formed over many years, because Turtle Rock was first introduced in 2003.
Yeah,
I remember
ROC.
this. And the first time I saw this map, I thought, one day fly. This map is shit. Right? It's absolute crap. There's so many problems with this map. It's not going to stand the test of time. But there were 2 things I didn't understand. One, the amount of high-level knowledge of Warcraft 3 competitive balance was very low among map makers. The incentive for map makers to make boring, good competitive balance maps was almost non-existent. There was no money in making maps for anyone, right? So there's no financial incentive. The emotional incentive to make maps for map makers is the satisfaction of creating something you're passionate about, and maybe people will use it, but you also enjoy the creation process. That's number 1. Number 2 is the pride to see that your map is being used on the big, the big tapestry of the esports scene. And usually one of those would be quite active, and the other part, they will care like strongly about one reason or not the other. Usually there was not much connection between the pro player and the map maker because the pro player is too busy to talk to them, and he's just trying to play, right? And he doesn't have time to go practice on all these, maybe this map will be a competitive map. So there was no like rigorous testing system set up. Nobody set it up. There's no tournament organizer that was like making this happen. I did so many map testing until I realized many of those maps never actually make the tournament scene. So that's just time gone that I should be spending on practicing on real maps. And so usually there were very few new maps in Warcraft 3. They're not easy to make because there are so many tick boxes of imbalances that cannot be happening. There are so many tick boxes of conditions that must be met. It is much, much, much easier to make good Brood War maps and to make good StarCraft 2 maps than it is to make good Warcraft 3 maps.
And that's a fact. That is a fact. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my brothers made maps back in the day, and they were pretty crazy. And like the whole creeping situation, you only have 4 small creeps around the middle, but each creep does lead to something. So it's like by the time you hit here, let's say you have 1 unit, your hero pops, 2nd unit pops, you can go up here with the 3. You should be busting out another unit or 2 if you're capable of, depending whether or not you have the resources for it. But you should have 1 on the go. Start creeping that, do an upgrade for your town hall or whatever. That should pump out, and then by the time that pumps out, either you're going to get a +1 to attack and defense, one of the two, or you're going to go for another unit. I would go for another unit, and then from here either creep down here and up and around, or you could keep going to down over here if you wanted to, right? And by the time you hit there, you should have enough gold that you can start doing the attack, get the attack pumping right away.
So the amount of options
Talking about 4 undead fiends,
competitive
spiders.
maps that we got eyes on was actually really low. So when Turtle Rock came out, I believe it was made, I'm not sure if Turtle Rock was made by Blizzard or by the community. I think it was actually made by Blizzard. I believe so. And I think it was made as a 2-on-2 map, not as a 1-on-1.
It was meant to be
Which is why
2v2.
The main bases, these two,
Yeah, exactly. Those 2 against these 2, plus the extras off to one side, and then you also have these ones in the middle.
are so close together. But then it started to be used as a 1-on-1 map, and there are a lot of issues on this map. Some of them have been patched out, but let's name some of the imbalances. Number 1, 4 spawn locations, namely A, B, C, and D. But no forced cross map. So if you spawned here, your opponent did not automatically spawn across. Even in the RNG of Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 4, even though your start location and your surrounding resources are somewhat randomized, you're still roughly always somewhat symmetrically opposite the opponent. Not so in Warcraft 3.
No.
You could spawn here and have a rush distance of 48 seconds to cross map. Or you had a rush distance of 46 seconds to semi-cross map. Or you had a rush distance of 20 seconds to your enemy right here. Let's name some of the bullshit that happened on Turtle Rock. Number 1, human player here, orc player here. Human starts with 5 peasants. They instantly send 4 to the gold mine and instantly send 1 to become a militia to travel across here. And he's like, oh yeah, there you are. Your altar is at 30% and your burrow is at 20% or 10%. I'm gonna summon every single peasant that I have into a militia, and I'm just gonna go to your base. I've got 6 militia in your base now, and I cancelled your burrow. You have 8 workers now, and your altar finished, but you don't have a burrow. So you're 8 pop out of 10. Hero is 5. You can't make a hero. So I'll take these 6 peasants and I'll start building a tower. I now made an arcane tower here, or a guard tower, because the next peasant would make a lumber mill. I'm now building a guard tower, and now your peons are hitting my peasants and my peasants are hitting your peons, but your peons don't have the DPS to kill the guard tower. So we both don't have a hero, but your peons are now dying to the guard tower. Then they start an altar here, they power build it with 3 peasants, They make one farm, they send one peasant to the tavern, tavern buys Firelord.
Yeah.
They have now one guard tower and one Firelord, and Orc can't get anything. The only way you
Quick
could
time.
counter it was to start the game, instantly make an altar, and instantly make a burrow. And then you would have to also send a peon to see here, right when the militia comes around the corner. You see it, and then you go back, you try to optimize your mining, and then when the 5 militia come in, you gonna try to body block with a peon like this to make sure that the militia don't reach your burrow on time. Then your burrow would finish on time. After this human strategy, which we call the TH000 rush, which is the Chinese player that discovered and used this strategy, after this rush had been discovered and had been made, everybody can do it. It's very easy to execute cheese, and it's completely made possible by the too short rush distance, right? So now the only way that Orc can play on Turtle Rock is to start the game to make a burrow immediately, rather than waiting until your first new peon. That burrow is 14 seconds earlier than it needs to be for your altar, but you need to do it or it won't finish on time to protect against the militia. So you're losing 14 seconds of mining time with one of the peons that should be going to your gold mine. So you're always poor. And they don't even have to do the rush anymore. They know you must do this, right? Or you will lose to a militia rush. You'd be gambling if you don't. So because this strat has been done once, now until the rest of the game, until the end of your life, you need to start that burrow 14 seconds faster so you don't lose to the TH rush.
And it also depends on where you wanted to place your Orc burrow. So like what Grubby used to do, he used to put an Orc burrow literally right beside everybody who was mining, right? Just beside, so in case someone wanted to come through, whether it be a Demon Hunter, Blade Master, whatever hero, right? You'd be able to throw them into the Orc burrow right away. Not only that, but the Orc burrow attacks if you have just one peon in there, but the attack of the Orc burrow increases the more peons that you have in there.
They may not even be next to you! There's only a 33.33 repeating chance that they're next to you. And even if they are next to you, they may not identify as a player that would do something like that against you. So, I guess the chances that it happens to you are just 20% as an Orc. Well, I guess I just don't build my burrow early then, because it's only a 20% chance. Oh, they're next to me. Oh, well, I guess I lost. They did it. So you don't want to lose like that, because you think of yourself as a player that likes to win by fun and skill, etc. But yeah, I guess I just lost. So yeah, so you have to do that. Hey, Logan. And so that's one of the things that can happen. Ah, there's so many other things. So on the middle of the map, so this map, about half the creeps are turtles, and turtles all have spiked carapace. Spiked carapace is like thorns and like the armor upgrade for the Crypt Lord, and what that does is melee damage return. So if you're melee, you take back 4 or 6 damage per hit every time you hit a turtle, and there's a lot of turtles. So half the map is killing you as you hit it. And that's a lot of health lost. Whereas if you are a race that typically plays with ranged units, well, you're not taking any damage, right? So that's not very balanced. That's pretty bad for ghouls and footmen and grunts, but Night Elf doesn't suffer from any of those. And then it's too hard on this map to take a fast expansion as a human player, because this is a hard turtle camp that hurts all your peasants and militia and footmen, right? And this camp is super badass difficult. So if humans start here and the opponent is here, and they try to take this level 6 troll, well, they're gonna lose a lot of stuff. So it's like, it's imbalanced against human, it's imbalanced against orc, it's imbalanced against undead, it's imbalanced against night elf in all kinds of ways. Well, I guess then it kind of shakes out to be balanced, right? But wait, there is more. This map is the only map in the competitive ladder map pool that at the Ogre Mage level 5 that's guarding this goblin shop, there's a Watcher Ward.
Yeah.
Watcher Ward. A Watcher Ward is like the Orc Witch Doctor Sentry Ward. It is invisible. Check. It has True Sight.
Yep.
Check. It sees things that are invisible. It is permanent. Sentry Ward from Doctor is almost permanent, 10 minutes. But this one is actually permanent. And whereas the Sentry Ward is dispellable and killable by physical attacks, this one is invincible. So if you take that Ogre Mage and you get the Watch Award, you've got an invisible, true sight, vision revealing, permanent, invincible Watch Award that also happens to guard the most relevant area in the map, which is the Goblin Shop, and a major walkway from one base to another. And there's another one on the other side. So it is so snowbally to get this Ogre Mage and the Watch Award. It reveals so much crucial information that on the one hand, it's this really interesting, you know, friction point, congestion point objective between the 3 to the 4.5 minute mark. But on the other hand, sometimes it's so binary. One race will be better at getting it than another, and then they just have it, and then, well, they'll always see you if you walk there.
I feel like he might give this map a D and or a C, but I'm sticking with S tier just because how old the map is, nostalgia, and I've won quite a few battles on this map on 1v1s.
And it's really annoying. And there's another really unique mechanic on this map that basically feels a little imbalanced. There's an Ogre Mage 5 here as part of the big Ogre and Troll camp that drops a Rune of Healing, which is it's like a heal scroll for your whole army. It's better than a heal scroll, actually. And it's too good. It's just too good. There's too many cases where it just nullifies this really meaningful, impactful skirmish that two players have had. You know, there's all these hurt units, and normally that matters, and that has ramifications that are interesting. There's consequences. There's repairs that need to be made. There's healing that must be done. Wounds that must be licked. But, oh well, I guess I just went into the hardest camp of the map with a nearly dead army, and I heal from it, right? There's something wrong about that. Of course, you may say, well, that is interesting. It's a unique point that only exists on this map, and you would also be right? Because RTS is not all about competitive integrity, but it's also about spectacle, and it's about cool things, and it is a cool thing. So is the Invincible Watch Award, right?
Yeah.
They are cool, and that's why I think Turtle Rock is kind of unique and cool, but competitively it has a lot of problems. I'm gonna let the spectacle balance out the problems and all the BS that happened. There's also been forced cross spawn on this map as of recently, because it doesn't need to be that way, that you can be close rush distance and then, you know, have these crazy rushes that work. So I'm actually just gonna put it in tier B.
Into a B tier, nice.
I would almost put it in tier A, but
you can have it as a 3v3 map where it's the 3 and 3. We have done it before, well, like back in the day in ROC days, we've done the 3v3, and it got pretty intense, pretty crazy. It's really good for a 2v2 because it's 2 and 2. For 1v1, instead of using one of these, I feel like it should literally be across lengthwise, and it would be more viable for each party who is going to be up against each other, right? Because everything is realistically the exact same distance, and if you were to cut the map directly in the middle, it's mirrored on both sides.
Something
but 3v3s on there were crazy.
Something must be done.
FFAs too, free-for-alls.
Although
Crazy.
Turtle Rock does not get played right now in the competitive map pool, I believe they removed the Watch Reward. They may have addressed the Rune of Healing, and they forced cross map. So many things that were both interesting but also horribly imbalanced had been addressed. On W3 Champions, they did remove the Ward and the Rune. Yeah, they also removed Rune of Healing. Well, then honestly, it's a tier B. It's
Nice.
a tier A on W3 Champions. But if I go by like the majority dominant version of this map that had been active back in my heyday, it would be a B. But I'll rank it then for how many cool games it produced and how many unique situations it created. Even though I hated to play this map sometimes, there are a lot of unique things that happened. There's one more story to tell about Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock is the only map that I've played high-level competitive undead.
Yeah, it is a nice map, right? Like, overall, it's a nice map. Like he said before with neighbor, with the neighbor attack, like, howdy neighbor, how diddly do you do? You know what I mean? And then, like, you're also able to, like, tower a little bit So if you're orc, you end up popping your burrow. Human comes over, takes a look. You have your burrow, but you're gonna have to fend off for a little bit. That's when you'd want to build a tower right up here. So it'd be like burrow, wood, burrow, lumberyard, and then you'd want to get your altar, start creating your hero, and by the time that pops and everything, your lumber mill would already pop so that you could do a tower. Your orc burrow would already be ready to go, where you could take 2 of your units that are gathering gold and throw them in there, or 1 from wood, 1 from gold, however it is that you'd want to do it. And then you could even double up on the orc burrow if you wanted to. You could do 2 orc burrows off of rip just to have the protection real quick, but you could still get pushed on by humans easily.
You may know me as an orc player in tournaments. I have spent most of my effort and love into orc in Warcraft 3, but I started as a night elf player, and I played 2 tournaments as an elf player in 2003, namely ESWC 2003 and
that was crazy.
Cyber Games 2003, and then by World Cyber Games 2003 I was a human player. And by Cyber X Games 2004 in January in Las Vegas, I was an orc player. So I played 1 major tournament as human, 2 major tournaments as elf, and then I've been orc forever since. Except Turtle Rock 2006. For Turtle Rock in 2006, I had so much trouble against human. I lost so many games against human on Turtle Rock. With
Humans OP on Turtle Rock.
So what did I do? Because they kept tower rushing me here. It was a very good map for tower rush. What did I do? I looked at all the replays and games they were playing, and I saw humans are always losing to undead on Turtle Rock. For some reason, in this meta, humans were playing either Griffin or Knight against undead. Griffin, Knight, or Rifle. They didn't fast expand because it was quite tough for them to do so. Sometimes they did fast expand, but they still lost, usually to a destroyer rush. And I thought, I can do that. I can rush destroyers, right? Orc in Warcraft 2 even had destroyers. Who wants to sink? And so I thought, yeah, I could do that. So I started my undead account, Rumpsteak, I called it. And Rumpsteak's sole purpose was to accrue enough experience as an undead player to sometimes, when I meet a human on Turtle, to switch race. So I'll play Orc on Lost Temple, I'll play Orc on Nullwood, I'll play Orc on Twisted Meadows. But when it gets to Turtle Rock, I switch to undead. And that was allowed in the tournament rules back then, which is of course what I'm aware of, and therefore I did it. Later on, many, like 10, 15 years later, sometimes they say you have to lock in your race for the whole series, or at least you have to submit what races you're going to play, something like that. But every tournament does their own rules, right? So it was always allowed to pick any race you wanted, and people had been making use of that since 2003, but I never did. And in 2006 I said, okay, if I meet human, I'll play undead, and I'll rush destroyers. So I started practicing undead on the ladder, and I beat a lot of Korean players in Undead Mirror, Undead Human, Undead Orc, like all kinds of matchups that were not necessarily important to me, because I was only going to use it in this very tunnel vision of Turtle Rock. And I also tried to practice this. I told my human teammate in Four Kings about my plans, and I said,
Four Kings, man.
I'm practicing undead against human. Do you
It's
want
a
to practice
classic,
together?
dude.
I thought teammates practice together. I was wrong. Nobody ever felt like practicing together. For some
No one
reason,
wanted to
people
give
were
away
very
their
competitive with
strategies.
each other, even in teams. Not what you would think from behind what would be going on behind the scenes, but I was the only one that saw teams as family, I think. So it was my fault. And I said, let's practice together on Turtle Rock. So we practiced together, and I won one game. The human tried to fast expand, and I rushed with ghouls in both his main and his expo, and then I went to rush destroyers. And then he said, this is stupid, nobody plays this way. Nobody does this. This practice is useless for me. And I said, well, I play this. Like, I'm intending to play this. I think this is good. I think they should be doing it, but they're not. They're like, no. So we played one more game. I won again. He's like, this is stupid. Never wanted to play with me again. Then we actually would end up meeting later in a tournament in China in a place called Qingdao. 2006, first place prize, $6,000. And we actually ended up meeting each other in the grand finals. We had a really rocky road to the finals. We both made it there. Sure enough, game gets to Turtle Rock, I pick Undead, right? He ends up being angry that I pick Undead because he didn't think that I would actually do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? I told you I'm going to do this in the next couple of months, right? And he had a lot of bad feelings about that, but I ended up winning with Undead. We played 2 other maps, one Orc Human on another map, which I lost. So then it gets to the 3rd map, and I'm like, what do I do? I only envisioned Turtle Rock Undead abuse. Now we're on Knollwood. And the problem with Knollwood was both Orc and Undead were really good against Human. So now I had to do this quick thinking. It's the final map of the Grand Finals, and I'm like, do I go Undead on Knollwood, which I have been practicing 300 games of. I've been practicing 300 games of Undead to prepare for Turtle Rock, but it's also good on Knollwood. And so far I'm 1-0 with Undead on this series, and I'm 0-1 with Orc in this series. And Orc is also very good on Knollwood against Humans. So what do I do? Which one do I abuse? And in the end I decided to let Comfort decide rather than prior statistics in the series. I didn't want to get too confident about my Undead or to be like too happy because, oh yeah, I won with this, maybe I'll win with it again. And plus I said to myself, if I end up losing this series, I want it to be with Orc. I don't want to feel like my final game in the tournament was with Undead, so I switched back to Orc, even though I lost with Orc and I won with Undead, and then I would end up winning that game, so I ended up winning the tournament.
I remember watching that. I got home from high school. I think I was in like grade 9, maybe grade 10, something like that. But anyway, I remember watching that because I was super stoked about the way how Grubby used Undead as well at the time, and it was so out of pocket to see him use Undead, like another race compared to Orc, right? Now it threw me for a loop to see what his strategy for the Undead was, how he ran that shit. And then he ended up taking it. I'm pretty sure he won the whole tournament after that, or it was Moon before he went to Four Kings. Yeah, because he beat Moon. Moon is a Night Elf player and stuff like that. He used Orc against him. Twisted Metals was their last map, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, that's when Grubby ended up taking it. I think that was his 4th tournament win. I'm not too sure.
Partially thanks to Undead.
I'd have to look into that. That was a long time ago.
Narrow. And so
I was like 15 or 16.
Tier A. Next, Twisted Meadows. I'm just not going to beat around the bush. Everybody knows this. Twisted Meadows is tier S. This is possibly, very likely, very definitely, the most legendary Warcraft 3 map ever. All of the greatest games in Warcraft 3.
Grubby's one of the greatest players in the world. You know, I'll give him his flowers for that. He's honestly one of the greatest players in the world. When it comes to any race, he is. He's one of the greatest players in the world. I love the way how he strategizes, already knows what units to go, what units do. Because he's been playing it essentially for his whole life. There was a time there where he took a break, and he ended up going over to StarCraft 2. And he had to go to Korea, and he was with, what is it? I forget the name of the league that he was in, but he was in a StarCraft 2 practice house, and from when he woke up till he went to bed, he was playing with Koreans continuously, people from China and stuff like that too, on StarCraft 2, the original StarCraft and StarCraft 2, but StarCraft 2, and then, man, what was it? He went Zerg for a bit, and then he ended up moving over to Protoss, because I remember seeing him win a tournament with Protoss. Yeah, Grubby's the shit, man.
Free map ever. All of the greatest games in Warcraft 3 have been played on Twisted Meadows. There's so many iconic games. For example,
perfect balance map.
Blood Castle saw Spirit Moon go for Dark Ranger level 6, steal a peasant, and then he made a human base and a human hero and human siege tanks.
Yeah.
All as a Night Elf player.
And no, it was such a troll. It was such a troll, and he beat him. It was fucking funny, man.
Just because he started with Dark Ranger, and he would end up using human race to beat his human opponent. Iconic, never been done before, and never been done since at high-level Warcraft 3 play. Also against Moon, I had an amazing game at BlizzCon where I would end up losing to Moon, I believe 1-2, and we had an over 1 hour game on this map. I struggled through the entire game, but I was coming back more and more and more, but he had so high hero levels, and he would end up with having metamorphosis. He made expansions everywhere, and I would hunt them down, and it was just so epic. But he had one base I didn't know about, and he would end up using that to win and come back.
To his
Not a good
advantage.
moment for me to lose, but stands as a great memory in many people's minds.
It's classic.
World Cyber Games 2008, also grand finals of me against Moon.
Yeah.
Twisted Meadows was the deciding map. I would end up rushing his base. I started over here,
Yeah.
and he started over here. I sent my blade level 1 into his base, tried to get out, he blocked me.
And Moon started over here with his Ancient of War with a couple archers, and I'm pretty sure he went Demon Hunter.
I was staff of teleporting out, but then his keeper showed up, entangled my blade,
Oh, Keeper of
which
the Grove.
interrupts the staff, and died. My blade died. Then he would end up rushing with his 2 heroes, and I only have a Shadow Hunter, and I would use a Shadow Hunter only to kill 1 or 2 of his heroes at the tavern, thereby evening the score. We would then end up creep the map. I creep over here, he creeps over here, he puts down an expansion. We have this epic battle here that maybe my editor can splice in some of that footage from the World Cyber Game fight.
So crazy. Here's the Demon Hunter.
Er will die Entscheidung jetzt haben, er will nicht wieder zurück,
Kudos.
wieder heilen und nochmal ein Go. Er will die Entscheidung jetzt oder nie. Er will den Demon Hunter erneut abpassen. Hex auf den Demon Hunter. Den hat er schon wieder. Da geht er raus. Der Keeper.
GG's.
Calder's screaming voice, Der Keeper geht down! Down! Jetzt geht er auf die Nase! Yeah, just a great series as well. Also ending on Twisted Meadows. And honestly, over 100 different games from all kinds of different legendary players of Warcraft 3. Not always the most balanced map, Twisted Meadows.
He is the
It
way,
has
yeah.
had many
100%.
balance issues as well that have been partially alleviated by removing Rock Golem, Furbolg, and Red Drake spawn from this camp, which was the case back in 2004. This camp had it, this camp had it. You could just summon a Rock Golem if you picked up the item.
Yeah.
That's gone. This camp used to drop Tome of Experience. This camp used to drop Tome of Experience. That's gone. That was a big part of the imbalance. The map has been restructured a bit since. You're seeing the old version here. There's a new version that has slightly better layout and creep possibilities. This used to have a level 10 Drake, which was cheesable with gargoyles. Undead would take this island, mass Gargs, then it would take this one, mass Gargs everywhere, harass your base, never fight, only hit and run. I once famously remember there was this NGL1 team tournament. It was Hazuops against Spirit Moon. And Spirit Moon was a world-class player, the most winningest prize money player of all time. And Hazuops is a very skilled player, but was mostly winning loads of things in Germany. And on the international stage, against the absolute top players, usually he didn't have as much success. And of course, he also played the race that had the least international success as well, Undead. So partially got something to do with that too. But he had one weapon that made him really scary. Hazuops loves towering, mass garging, and laming. And so him as the underdog, let's say top 60 player in the world, against the number 1 player in the world, he was able to win against Moon, and all it took was over an hour. I remember some people were falling asleep while watching it. They would fall asleep in the chair that they were sitting in, including my girlfriend and some of the Korean players. Everyone else was watching because this was a King of the Hill tournament, which means everyone is watching, and if one player wins, then he will meet the next player from the enemy team, and so on. So it's the winner stays on. And so nobody was able to do anything except watch, but it was so boring to watch 80 gargoyles flying around the map. Okay, let's say 40 gargoyles, and never fighting and only killing Wisp. And you knew where it was headed, eventually Hasselhoffs will squeeze out the life. And even though the implications are cool that he was winning, it was not very exciting. Everyone was just falling asleep. Yeah, so definitely unique on this map because there's islands. But yeah, Twisted Meadow is just the best map ever. It's so much fun. Next up, Autumn Leaves is a relatively new map. I think it's okay. There is
I remember Autumn Leaves. It was an.
this mercenary camp.
I want to see if he's
going
gonna pull it up.
Go.
There you go. There you go. It was an alright map. It was okay for 1v1s. It wasn't my favorite. Undead I could see doing really well on this map. I haven't played Undead on this map, so I couldn't really tell you about it. For me, I haven't really played too much on this map. For me, it's a D. This is the first D that I'm throwing up. Throw some D's on that bitch.
Goblin Laboratory, Mercenary Camp. Only one instance of each, which leads to friction. Normally, one lap on my side, one lap on yours. Not so much here, only one of each. However, these are two enormous camps that are both in the same area. You would never creep the laboratory while I'm creeping the Mer camp.
No.
It's too close. One of the players would always be incentivized to creepjack the other. So the two most important camps on the map are in the same place. And in my experience, one player ends up getting both. Whoever is ahead by the 4-minute mark, the 5, 6, or 7-minute mark ends up getting both. And that has often felt snowbally and not very fun.
Yo,
and it's
damn
usually
long
one
time
race
no
more
see.
than
How
the
you
other.
been, homie?
And I
Welcome.
don't like it. I don't like these camps too much and how they're situated, so I don't think it's great. What I do like is the fact that there is a really easy expansion that you can reach like so, but it's really close to the opponent, so they can harass it. Or you go for the more defensible expansion, but it's both further for you and harder to take.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting to this risk-reward balance. In terms of creeping options, I don't think there's enough. Do you see how few circles there are on the map?
Everything's
Say, for
too
instance,
far
if you
away.
take
It's
this
too
green
spaced
camp,
out.
Right. Here, you take this green camp. Where do you go next? This is backtracking back to your base. If you go here, it's okay. You can also go here. This is too hard usually. If you go here, you go all the way out of the map. Just like in chess, controlling the center 4 squares is important for map control. I don't know what they call it there, but my dad taught me that concept.
It is, though.
The 4 squares in the middle in chess are the
Because
most
then you can
important.
move
Is that
anywhere
true?
in chess, on the chessboard.
So if you creep this green camp and then you go to the gold mine in the corner, true? Yeah. You're so
Yo, we've been alright. Just finished getting a new job and stuff. Restructuring the channel a little bit, where there's going to be more videos, more React videos and other videos coming out too. Community Duel Saturdays are still going to be on Saturdays, stream on Sundays, because I have alternating Saturdays and Mondays off. So 1 week I'll have to work Saturday, and then I'll have Sunday, Monday off, and then the next week I would have to I'd have to work the Monday and have Saturday, Sunday off. So every 2 weeks it's going to alternate, but every Saturday is Community Duel Saturday, because I pretty much got 9 to 5. It'll end up probably starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time instead of the 8:30 how I've been doing it for like the longest time. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, pretty much we're going under restructuring the channel so that it makes sense to everybody. You know, there's going to be a lot more content, more so videos, and I'm going to have it spaced out over time. And people that are members end up getting to see the video a day before everybody else.
green camp and then you go.
And also, this weekend, I'm pretty sure I'm going to either do it tonight or tomorrow. There's going to be a tier, because we got 3 tiers right now. It's all as cheap as I could make it. You don't even have to, like, it's completely up to you, you know what I mean? But we're going to have a 4th tier where it's going to be tournaments for Yu-Gi-Oh, Warcraft 3, Diablo, like, it doesn't even matter, whatever the tournaments are. And the people who end up paying for that higher tier is going to be a little bit more expensive. It's pretty much going to go towards a prize pool. And yeah, that's how I envision things happening.
Go to the gold mine in the corner.
Yo, appreciate you,
Yeah.
homie.
You're
How's
so
everything
far
on your
out of
end?
the map. This is the center 4 squares, right? And like I said, whoever's ahead wins both of these, or whoever has the better race wins both of these. So if I'm creeping here,
And another way to do it too, you could actually run up with a militia, pop whatever hero that you wanted to. Usually it'd be like a Beastmaster or something like that. You could even get the Lava guy, just for the extra summons to push over into one. You know what I mean? You could even build a tower, get a tower going right away, and then upgrading the tower, because you could, let's say you send your militia, you're doing your thing, but as you send your militia, you'll send one peon and then start building, and then whatever from your militia stops being militia and back to peon, you can send over here, start helping build that tower. Also, you could build a farm, because not only that, you're like keeping an eye over here as you upgrade your tower. Now, it's whether or not you're going to get a regular tower or a cheap tower is completely up to you. But by the time that happens, you're finished this creep camp, you can start pulling, and then you can just start towering in the middle if you wanted to, because then you're going to control the whole middle. You could pull from here, you could pull from here, you could pull from here, pull from there, and you're just holding it down pretty much and refusing them to enter the 2 shops that are the most important on this map.
and you're doing the middle, then I got nothing left. If I'm creeping here and you're doing the corner, we're not going to interact with each other. And but there is a bunch of cool green camps here, but again, they're really far out of the way from expansion.
I feel like instead of here, it should start here, like move this over, and this is where you should start, this is where your opponent should start, and then you're given more of a option, like it's more open space, everything's a little bit more closer.
Location.
Just my opinion about it.
From the center. I just don't think that this map works out to have really interesting movement pathing the way that it works out. I think it's a little too destitute of interesting creep camp connections and combinations and routes. There should probably be about 1 more camp on both sides, 1 or 2 more camps. For instance, there could be a camp over here that I think would help, or over here. Or there could be a camp over here or here that would help. And there used to be one here, but it's gone. Now there's someone here. Overall, I just don't feel like it's a very phenomenal map. It doesn't play out that fun. I usually don't have much fun on this map. It's also brown, which is a poopy color. Green is better. So I'm just going to put this in tier C.
He put in tier C, I throw it straight up in D for dumpster. It's alright, things are going, can't complain. I started working out because I've been letting myself go lately. Yo, me too, man. I started working out and stuff too. Helped me with my sciatica and all that as well. I don't really complain about it too much anymore. Every once in a while, you know, flare-ups happen, but working out is super great for all your ligaments, your muscles, all that, you know what I mean? I've been feeling great. So I'm glad that you're taking a step in that direction. Take care of yourself, you know what I mean? Congrats, homie.
Autumn leaves. I think honestly it could be a B as well. Let's not let the color influence it. Okay, next up, Echo Isles. Now, the picture we're looking at here is new Echo Isles.
So the old Echo Isles, I'm pretty sure it's like, hold on. I want him to pull
And
it
new
up.
Echo Isles was co-improved by Save Orcas, the same person that made Springtime. Here we have old Echo Isles.
There, right? So like we used to use this in a 1v1 back in ROC days as well, going up against other clans where it's a 1-2, you try to push down and expand as fast as possible, or you try to push down here because there used to be creeps over here that you were able to take into the middle, right? Or like up and over, you'd be able to creep this and come down over here to creep this and then up and over. Or you could push over here, creep this before they could even come down. A good majority of the time, humans would try to rush you. They would also tower rush here in the middle. A good majority of the time, there would be towers in the middle that you'd have to deal with and overcome. Undead was alright on this map too, but they're super slow when it comes to the expansions and stuff, right? Where human would easily outtake them, night elf would easily outtake them as well, unless you were be able to make it to like mid-game. If you made it to mid-game, Undead would have a slight upper hand if they were able to hit up all these spots. Also, hit up this spot too, where you can get extra items to increase your attack and or defense.
This is a stinky map that got played a lot just because it was less
thanks, Dan.
balanced
Appreciate
than
you,
other
homie.
maps. Everybody played on this map in every single series
Yep.
because the other maps were so broken you would delete them.
This is S
So
tier.
you played here.
S tier for
It
me.
was the least of the evils, but not a good map. Not at all. Very boring map. Pretty much almost as boring as Amazonia. Why? Let me talk about it. If you start by taking this creep camp, you have pretty much only two options where you want to go next. To the opponent's base, because that creep camp is probably gone if they took the same thing. Or you go to the marketplace. Now the market is too contested and too difficult to actually creep, but you could try to steal the Ogre 5, which was locked behind two trolls so the ogres couldn't get to help their buddy because the trolls blocked it in. So Blade Master could creep this level 5, nobody else could creep it.
Also, I remember seeing humans where they would go up here, but they would send two over here and start building towers behind the trees over here, right? So that you're holding it down if they try to come through from the backside, and if they wanted to come through that side, you're going to end up being able to hit them a little bit. And then there'd be like a tower over here if they wanted to come up and around, whereas like they'd have to end up going down and around. And usually by that time, they're going to come down here and take a look to see what it is that you got. But I've seen humans go boom, boom, and then like creep down a bit or swing back around. So like this is the mirror side, right? So it'd be like boom, come back down, boom, and into here, and then up and over, and then back across.
So Orc often did this, green and then this, or straight this, which is very binary. And once that's the best thing, you're doing the same thing every game, thousands of games. Or you take this and go oppo, or you go straight oppo. Alternatively, you could take this green camp, but this green camp is level 131 and doesn't even give you an item, just a tome.
Yeah.
And then, this camp is too hard, this camp is too hard to be next, as Orc anyway. As an Undead too, these two camps too hard. So after this, the only camp you can go to is the other, or your expansion. You can also do this green camp and then this. You're level 2, but you're very far from your opponent with level 2. What is nice is if you can creep to level 1.5 and then go to your opponent. Or you creep to level 2 and then you go to your opponent. These are nice timings that you can build around. What is not nice is to get level 1.7, 2.1, but be so far from your opponent. Because now you're just going to keep creeping. Because the map has a very short base-to-base rush
you get
distance,
stuck creeping.
but it has a very long base-to-point of interest rush distance. And there's a couple of culprits. First of all, the fact that you start north side, both bases. The main bases are connected by 48 seconds of rush distance as the peon walks.
Under 50 seconds.
That's pretty close. That's closer than most maps. Most maps on average have like 52 seconds. 52, 55. Terranistad has 65. So you can get to the opponent's main quickly, but generally level 1.0 rush sucks. So you want to pick up something on the way, and the only thing you can pick up is level 1.7. So that's kind of lame, and there's nothing. This whole center of the map has nothing.
Yeah, it's
No
pretty
creeps.
bare.
This camp is too hard, this is too hard, this is too hard. This is very far and relatively hard.
Until you
There
have
should
like
be
2
small green
heroes and
camp
like
here,
5,
there
6
should be a
units
small green camp here, there
that
should
have
be
been
a small green
upgraded.
camp here, right? Something along the way so that you can create nuance. Because if your opponent scouts you here and you're traveling like so, they know you have to attack them. There are no hobbies along the way. There's nothing to stop you in your tracks and say, well, you know, I'll just check this out, I'll creep this. So there's 100% predictability in when you'll arrive here or here, because they know you wouldn't be coming here unless there was nothing else, and because there's nothing else to do, you wouldn't be coming here except to go straight to my base. So they can just start their mental clock and be like, well, I know when you're gonna get here. And what's cool is when there's nuances that there's things to do on the way. So Echo Isles is an absolute stinker in terms of creep routes. It is boring. Secondly, Echo Isles has been kind of strong for Russia.
So for nostalgia, I give it an S tier just because nostalgia. But to play it, I'm gonna give it like a B, C tier.
You can get level 2,
Like
then
low
harass
B,
opponent,
top C.
then pick up a tavern hero, which gets to their base so fast, and you tower rush.
Yeah.
So many night elves have been tower rushed by human here, which of course I know is very popular for you guys watching. Tower rush are fun to watch. But what isn't fun is when the win chance of a tower rusher is 90%, even if the defender knows it's coming. Now, of course, again, that's fun for ladder players. You guys, maybe you like to see tower rush win every time, but as a competitive player, knowing you're going to lose to a rush that you've been seeing for years usually isn't that great, and there's no way to stop it. And so orcs have been tower rushed here a lot, night elves have been tower rushed here a lot by human.
Undead.
Then another problem with the map, there's very few creeps on the map. After everything has been crept, you're not super high level, so it's very rare to get ultimate abilities unlocked on this map. There's not a single red camp on the map. There's no high level items because of that. There's no major congestion points later in the map, because all of the creeps almost are completely hidden on your half of the map. That is very far from your opponent. And these are all on their half of the map.
To
So
give
you've
you
just got
incentive
two
to come down
congestion
here
points
and
that once they're
expand
gone,
quick.
No more tension, almost, right?
I seen a Dreadlord play on this map before where they were actually able to get the Dreadlord to level 6 and get his ultimate. So they ended up creeping, had a little skirmish, creeping. So like over here there used to be bears that you can get, and I forget the name of the item that drops, but it gives you 3 bears that you could summon. And you grab that and then work your way down here, over here, get your expansion, and then by then you're going to end up pushing over here, have a couple skirmishes and all that and whatever before pushing in.
And then you just fall back, you do your own half. You know they can't attack because it's too far, they do their half. Now there are no more creeps. Congratulations, you have unlocked StarCraft mode. No more neutral units on the map. There's no reason to do anything except sit on your ass. And so you will. And so will they. Because there's a defender's advantage. After all, I have Mercamp in my possession. I have an expansion. You have an expansion and Mercamp. So if I attack into you, rush distance 60 seconds.
Yeah.
You are hiring mercs, you're hiring units. You have 10 more units than me. 10 population more of units. Okay, I guess I just won't attack. We're both 2 bases. I guess I'll take a 3rd base. That's how to get ahead. Ah, shucks, there is no 3rd base. Well, let's just wait until all gold mines are empty.
I'll give it a
Both
C.
80 pop, then we both go to 100 pop, and then we still don't attack because there's still defender's advantage. This happens so often where neither player would attack. And remember what I explained about hit and run on Last Refuge about 1 hour and a half ago? If I attack this base, the hand defends like so, then I need to run the longer path around to attack the main from below. So the hand can still defend. Hit and run is not possible. But what if I threaten your expansion? I'm standing in a central location right over here. I might go to your main, or I might go to your expansion. What's the walking distance? Well, if the hand defends from here, he will always be on time to defend. So there is no hit and run possible here.
That's
There's
crazy
no
to think
special
about
path that
for the
defender has
defense
to walk,
overall.
because the attacker's path is always longer. So Echo Isles has no 3rd base tiebreaker, no hit and run, and not enough creeps to need to go out either.
No, and like pretty much they would want you to skirmish here in the middle to try and gain XP, right?
So it actually makes me appreciate games like Age of Empires 4, Zero Space, or Company of Heroes, because in those games there are always additional objectives available outside of fighting each other, right? There are important contention points like sacred sites or control bases in Company of Heroes. In Zero Space you've got control points in the middle. That forces action, that forces friction, and that allows for skill expression and variety and dynamics. Echo Isles starts like that, but then loses it too fast.
But like I was saying with the Dreadlord, after he did all those creeps and he got to level 6, came through, dropped his ult real quick, had the game, but he GG'd like essentially right away as soon as he seen that. And it was a crazy strategy to see Undead actually use back in the day.
Minutes in, and it becomes
Now it's like solo
the
Dreadlord
drudgery.
to
This
try
is
and
the
get to
most
level 6
played
right away for
map,
his ultimate.
one of the most played map ever, and it is not good. Echo Isles is tier C, but wait, hold on, I've just been deconstructing Echo Isles. Didn't I say there was a remake of it?
Yeah.
The remake dispenses with much of the weaknesses of the original. First of all, there are more creep camps now. The remake has an additional creep camp here. That means you can go for level 1.7, level 2. And instead of being here, you're here. So now you can go to the main base, or you can go to the expo, and it's only 40 seconds rush distance instead of 55.
It's not too
That
bad.
is more dynamic.
Saving
It
10
also
seconds.
adds a creep camp where there was none, so you can get more than level 2.1 from those 3. There's also a tiebreaker base, a 5th gold mine, that is very difficult to take, just like on Springtime, which is also made by Save Orcas. It is defended, unlike on Springtime. It has no creeps on Springtime, but here there are. This is another camp that adds experience to the total pool of the zero-sum game of creeping, which is a good thing. This camp has been made less of a death trap because there are now 2 paths towards it. On the old Echo there was only 1 path, which made it usually very risky to take, which meant that you would only take it if you were very far ahead, which would just make you further ahead. But here you've got a new walk path, so there's more dynamics. And for the rest, the camp is mostly the same in most other regards. But the addition of these 3 creep camps, and to open this up, has made the map better. I would say Echo Isles is a tier C map, had it not been remade. But because it has been remade, I will put
D.
him in B.
Hello, it's no
Slightly
D.
less of a stinker.
It's better
Alright,
C.
Shallow
Yeah.
Grave. Let's look at Shallow Grave. Shallow Grave, I don't have as much experience on this map.
I've
but
maybe played on this
overall,
map a
I think
handful of
it is
times.
okay.
I have
You've
to
got
throw it
a
in D because
relatively
I haven't
challenging
played it.
creep camp here, which is the expansion that can be taken not too easily. It is just a bit further away than some natural expansions, and it is not
Yes,
too far away from the
facts.
opponent to be unable to harass. It is not unachievable to creep it, and yet it is possible for the opponent to harass against it. That's a good thing. What I don't like on Shallow Grave is the fact that there is a Mercamp that offers Dispel, which can be Militia Craft and Ancient of Warcraft. Though what I do like is that it is defended by a Troll Warlord level 6, which is a pretty badass creep that in theory should make it risky to creep this as your first camp to unlock Abolish Tech. However, the main problem is that the rush distance from the Mercamp and the main base is just slightly too high. The distance, if you were to take a ruler and you would rule it to the main, is just a bit too high to reliably, for any race, get here on time to stop it and to prevent this from being very worth it for the creeping player. And
Makes
that's
sense.
partially made worse because of this blocker, this blocker, this blocker, this blocker, and this blocker. So you have to kind of walk around that, and you won't be there on time. That makes this map bad, in my opinion, already. Visually,
I'm
I agree with
already
you guys.
throwing
it
it in
looks
D
pretty
just
cool.
because I've only
There's
played
also
on
some
it a
interesting
handful of
contention
times.
point. I'm a big fan of the
I have not seen this
tiebreaker
map
gold
in
mine. There's
competitive
6
play.
gold mines here, which I think is better than 5 and 4. This is not easy to creep, and it's also far out of the way. And also, there's not a lot of easy camps around here. I think that's a weakness, but it also creates a very delayed objective. You can't go for this early. Usually, the opponent's main base is an objective for you to attack, because you need to kill them. And Ogre level 7 here is also a big objective because you want to take it. And I think maps become really interesting when you add mini objectives near big objectives, so that you can fake out your positioning. If I start walking here, the opponent knows I'm taking the Ogre Lord at this red spot. But if there was a small green spot here, this can be a lot more innocuous movement. That means that sometimes the boy will cry wolf and he's like, he's just gonna get the small green cap here. No, I'm getting the Ogre Lord, mother trucker.
How his
So
face
I
lights
think
up.
mini objectives should surround large objectives. and that creates nuance and interesting decision making. So I think this map has a number of issues. I don't know if I should put it in B, but honestly I feel like it's more of a C. It is not very balanced, and I don't think it has a lot of interesting dynamics. Shallow Grave for me is going to be a tier C map. Knollwood.
Knollwood is a really good map. It's very suitable for undead. It's good for it's good all around, realistically.
Knollwood is a golden oldie. Knollwood is a 6-player map that was most likely made for FFA and 3-on-3, but it has been used a lot for 2-on-2 and 1.
I used to play a lot of 3v3 in ROC, and this map was a key map. Edges sucked because you could obviously get smoked from the edge if they decided to just run up all 3 of them and try to rush the one side, but then again you could be doing the same thing, and if you guys end up corresponding within the same side that you're trying to rush at, you end up having a little bit of a battle, and then it's a war of attrition between the 3v3, and whoever ended up getting rid of the most units, the other team would usually just GG and cut. Right? For me, just because how classic it is, that's an S tier. To play on it was super fun in 3v3s. In 1v1s, the RNG, depending on where they might be, they could be your neighbor, they could be across the map. It all depends. I'm going to give it an A tier.
And 3-on-3. But it has been used a lot for 2-on-2 and 1-on-1.
2v2s on it was really good too.
Which is a center fountain that actually had a 50% chance of being healing and a 50% chance of being mana.
One of the two.
Which is insane. It is insane to create a map with that much RNG. I know the Age of Empires 2 or 4 players won't understand this, because they're like, what do you mean? Maps are always RNG. Not in Blizzard games.
Not in Blizzard games.
Not in Blizzard games. But Knollwood was.
It's better C. Yes.
And it was actually really hard to see. You had to tune your monitor settings correctly to detect if it's purple, ergo mana, or blue, ergo health, through the fog of war. So yes, I remember sometimes I would play on tournaments where I could not set the monitor correctly to definitively know if it's mana or healing. But the funny thing is, it was kind of like that feeling when you're having lucid dreams, or when you're having dreams and you're quite aware of them later and you remember them. When you're awake, like you guys are now, and like I am, you know you're awake and you know you're not dreaming, except I guess if you have some condition. Generally, you know. I know I'm awake right now. But when I'm dreaming, I don't know that I'm dreaming. I thought it's real, usually, right? Because it's not lucid. It was like that for Knollwood for me. If it was Healing Fountain, I could see it. I see the color. That's blue. There's no way it's purple. But if it was Mana Fountain, I wasn't sure. It could be mana or it could be healing. I don't know. I'm going to have to scout it. I'm going to have to test it. Which doesn't make any sense, of course, because I was awake during both of it. But either way, it created this little niggling thought of hesitation. I wasn't sure about it. And so, yeah. Anyway, but that's not a big deal. Let's talk about Knollwood. Knollwood has 6 starting locations, and for a lot, like anytime this was played in competitions, Knollwood did not have fixed starting positions based on your opponent, so there was no cross mapping. This map is so horribly asymmetric and imbalanced that I cannot believe this was ever played in competitions. Let's name some examples. If you're purple and you start here, you have a mercamp next to you, right? But you have to go around this. If you're teal and you start here, you can walk straight into the mercamp.
Yep.
Which is fine, I guess. You know, both have equal access to it. But what about this? If you're teal, your tavern is next to you. But if you're purple, you don't have a tavern. You need to get your hero all the way from over here, next to your opponent maybe. Or all the way over here. You need to travel 30% of the map's distance, or 20%, instead of literally in your own backyard. Problem?
Frustrating.
I don't think
That'd
so,
be
right?
hella frustrating.
Just don't buy Tavern Heroes, or just hire. It was a problem. Okay, that's number one. Number two, this camp is a Granite Golem level 9 with 2 Rock Golems level 6. It drops items such as Aura of Endurance,
Nice.
War Drums, Command Aura, Brilliance Aura, Unholy Aura.
And aura.
It could drop Claws of Attack plus 12, Helm of
Nice.
Valor. Lots of cool stuff, right? There's only 3 on the map. Blue has it right next to him. Red does not. Orange has it right next to him. Yellow does not. Purple has it right next to him. Teal does not. Problem? Hey, what do you mean? You don't have the big creep camp next to you, but what's the problem? Just hire a hero from the tavern and shut up. So that's kind of an issue. Then Mana Fountain was incredibly OP for Undead. If they controlled the map, they go in, Coil Nova you, kill unit, go back Fountain, full mana.
Yeah.
Coil Nova, Fountain. Big problem, right? But if it's Healing Fountain, Orc is imbalanced. Now Orc can do Raider hit and runs the rest of the game and heal for free at the Fountain. You don't even need to get Shadow Hunter. You just go TC, nice and fast. You shockwave workers, you kill all the buildings, you fall back. And you take any number of expansions because you've got map control and Fountain. Nobody can take you there, baby. So this is probably the most imbalanced map ever, and more BS happened. If you're purple, the rush distance to red is probably something like 57 seconds. But if you're purple and the rush distance to yellow, that's less than 30 seconds. That's a half a minute
so
difference
wonky.
in rush distance.
That's so crazy
instead of
wonky.
you finishing your defensive tower, it's halfway, so it's gonna get cancelled. It's so broken, dude. Okay, I once had this game in World Cyber Games 2004 Grand Finals against Welcome to, aka SK Zakard. I was yellow and he purple. Each of these main spots, when there's not a player spawning, has a Rock Golem level 6. Golems do not sleep. That means that if you get too close with a worker, he will throw a rock, stun you, and kill you. So you sending around a very precious worker to scout 5 locations. First of all, this takes very long.
Yep.
And peons do not like to travel all over the map. They are not nomadic in nature. They're homebodies. They like to Netflix and chill. They like to just stay at home, work, bring home the bread, and then just see their city thrive. They're not wanderers and vagabonds looking to go around. They haven't got any business there, right? Wisps, on the other hand, they can scout the map, and the moment they find the opponent, they're like, all right, cool, I'll just go on a tree here and mine wood the rest of the game. No.
So, like, that's something else, too, that you gotta take in consideration if you're playing a Night Elf with the Wisps. Literally, Wisps, you could throw them all over the map, and you could put them in behind trees. So it's like you're on one tree, and then there's a tree behind it. You could get it to go towards that tree, and then it's kind of blocked in, you know what I mean? Where it's not presented where your opponent's able to see it if they're running past, unless they run past at a certain angle, and then they're able to see it, right? But you would always be able to see them.
Nobody will ever find me, right? And also, Wisps are faster, and they
Yep.
have more vision than
Facts.
peons. So Wisps go around the map, they get what they need, then they stay
Not
there
only
and farm.
that, but then you could
Peons
detonate
do the
too.
whole trip, and then it takes so long to get home. Secondly, if peons have so little vision that there's only one spot where you can be, that you can reveal the rock golem, but he doesn't kill you. So you need to learn exactly which piece of grass to scout on. You need to memorize for every location. This little shrubbery, this shrubbery is where I need to click, and then I shift click here, this shrubbery, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. Okay, let's start scouting. When do you scout? When your altar finishes. 1 minute and 2 seconds. 1 minute, 5 seconds, something like that. 1 minute, 5 seconds. So my peon leaves, 1 minute, 5 seconds. 1:30. I see the rock golem. 2 minutes. My hero finishes, and I've checked 2 out of 5 locations. My hero finishes, and I haven't got any idea who I should harass where. 2 minute 30. My hero is level 1.7. 3 minutes. I'm level 2. I still don't know where my opponent is. Oh wait, I do know. I checked 4 locations. Ah shit, he's right next to me.
Sure.
In fact, he's in my base, and I'm here. Right? There's way too many spots to scout for a one-on-one game. And in fact, before I learned which shrubbery should be scouted, I had a game against Zakard where I scouted this. He's not there. I scouted this. He's not there. I sent my wolves here and here. He's not there. Okay, I checked 4 spots. So he's blue then, yeah? So I send my Farseer here, waiting for info. I get the info, and I go here. I resummon wolves here. I get here. It's a rock golem.
Ta! He wasn't even there.
One of the 4 locations didn't get scouted properly. But where is he? I guess I need to scout everything again. Oh.
Wisp can be hit, right? Yeah. They can be hit, but if you end up intercepting when they're trying to hit your Wisp and you push D, and it ends up creating like a fairy ring kind of looking deal on the ground, which is detonate. You could detonate on their hero, which ends up taking some of their mana away when they're trying to attack you. Essentially, mana drain.
I don't need to scout everything again because he's literally.
Because nowadays you will even see in competitions that sometimes they'll bring like 2-3 wisps with them and throw them on trees all around so that they're able to just grip a couple, like grip one at a time and throw it into battle. Use its detonation, but the downside to that is if it detonates on your hero too, it takes away from your hero too. So it's not crazy OP.
He was purple.
What's up, Jewel? Hope you're having a good day. Happy Saturday, everybody.
Right? But it's also
appreciate you guys taking time come through.
The large amount of map you need to canvas. So I end up town portaling home to defend against the Farseer rush that is even now killing peons, harassing burrows, mining time. He ends up hiring a Firelord from this tavern that's instantly in my base. He's now summoning wolves and lava spawns. He's towering me. Well, I still end up winning. I don't know how. With such a terrible start, where I didn't creep and lose TP. Just got lucky, I guess. But, oh my god. After this tournament, I said to myself, I will learn and find every single shrubbery on every map so that I will never again get hurt the same way.
Never again.
Nullwood is an imbalanced piece of shit that I love to love. I hate to love it. I hate to love it. This is not a balanced map, but it is very good for Orc.
C tier.
If I was a human player, I would rate this in tier D without a second thought.
Yeah.
But this is my tier list, and I'm not a filthy human. I'm an Orc, and I've enjoyed this map mostly against human and undead. Against elf, it's actually kind of tricky. As an Orc player, I'm gonna put it in tier S. This is an imbalanced piece of crap, but it's more fun than Shallow Grave and Concealed Hill. But it is even more imbalanced than Lost Temple and Echo. So I put it in C. S tier? No. Last map, Tyrannus Stand. Just like Turtle Rock, I could not believe that Tyrannus Stand had ever been conceived and created. When Tyrannus Stand came out, it was bad, guys. The mercenary camp on this map was simply ported.
I remember this map. So usually what would end up happening, so like I've started down here, right? The creep route really sucks because you're like hugging onto the side. Don't get me wrong, I got a 1v1 video of a dub that I got on this map and stuff, but the creep route for this really sucked because you'd have to go here, and then if you're strong enough you could take this, but usually you wouldn't be strong enough. You could actually fall back here, get this, and then you'd have like 2 more units by the time you're done that, or that 1 unit and then a second unit on the way. As you get to here, your next unit should pop, and then obviously you're either going to do an upgrade or you're going to end up getting 1 more unit. And for the upgrade, I'm talking about for the attack. Usually it would be for the attack, come over here, because by the time you end up killing off one of these, you can upgrade your town hall. But with humans, same with orcs, and same with night elves. Tower, straight tower here, they can tower here. I've seen it, man. I've seen it. It gets hella frustrating. Or they'll come here, get the lava golem hero, and like try to harass as they tower. A good majority of the time, they tower the shit out of this map. Undead, it sucks for undead. I'm not gonna lie, it's good for orc, especially because then you'd be able to go raiders if you wanted to, and a beastmaster, get the beastmaster, or you could either start with beastmaster or start with Tauren Chieftain, one of the two, or even Farseer. Farseer is really good too, but for it to work, it's like you get Tauren Chieftain. I'm going to use this side because it's more open. Get Tauren Chieftain, come through, boom, boom, boom. Get your expansion as you're already upgrading. It should get to level 2. By the time it's level 2, you're already going to have a peon down here, build up a couple towers, just so that you have a little bit of a defense. Same with like over here. You could end up doing towers if you wanted to, just to protect your expo. Come down here, get a second hero. It'd usually be like Beastmaster. So then your Tauren Chieftain should be either level 2 or level 3, or on the verge of level 3. Get them together because his aura, and then you raiders. Start getting raiders. Let's say you have like 3 to 5 grunts rolling with you as well. They can tank hits, which is pretty dope. You gotta increase the attack. I think it's like attack, defense, and then attack again, because by the time you get the second attack, raiders should be coming out for orc, right? And then you're actually able to go in and start pushing on a base. And then even if it goes a little bit further, Witch Doctor, Shaman, just so that you have the healing wards. You could even go Witch Doctor for the hero if you wanted to, for a second hero, but I would go Beastmaster, and that's just me. That's how I feel about it. And then and then you can just push in. But a good majority of the time between Night Elf, Human, mostly Human, and Orc, they'll end up towering here. Mostly Human, not gonna lie.
From the standard tile set that this is. Do you notice how this is dark green and most other maps are light green?
Yeah.
Dark green has its own biome.
Biome.
Turnistan has its own biome, and it is not normal fertile green setting, let's say, and that means it has its own mercenary camp. Basically, map makers in 2005 or 4, they just used whatever mercamp came with the biome. And on this map, that happened to include a Murloc Huntsman. And the Murloc Huntsman is a level 2 creep that has a snare. It was available from the start of the game. So what everybody was doing, Night Elves in particular, they would take a wisp, they would go just close enough to make the kobolds angry and chase it, and they ignored Smeagol's advice. They chased the lights, right? And then they would send in a second wisp, put it on a tree to mine wood here safely forever until the creep camp gets farmed. And then with that second wisp, they hired a Murloc Huntsman. And that Murloc would start hunting. And then together with a level 2 hero that they got from this Goblin Laboratory, very easily, which is completely unharassable, right? Because, okay, they have the Huntsman. Put a pin in it, remember it for later. We're almost done. This is a main base. And this is a main base.
Yep.
The rush distance from main to main, even though they look
38
closer
seconds
to each other because they're not in the absolute corner, which is this, 65 seconds.
65
due
seconds.
to the bridge.
Because how far
action
you
and
got to
just
maneuver.
how far it is. 62 to 65 seconds, I calculated once, right? That is far. So that means the opponent is level 2 if you are a person that needs to harass immediately. Normally, Undead and Orc was forced to harass immediately against Human and Night Elf. So Human and Night Elf love this map, and Orcs and Undeads hated this map because they're level 2 before you get there, which is always bad news. And you're level 1.0, they're level 2.1 because they go here, they Militia or Ancient of Warcraft this. This camp is level 111, so they only need one of it, and they're level 2. Terrible balance. Terrible, terrible balance. Then, to compound those issues, with the level 2 Demon Hunter that Night Elf now has, they get that Murloc Huntsman. And then they get another one from here. And now any grunt or ghoul that is on the map gets ensnared by the Huntsman and killed by the Demon Hunter and archers. Nice. Very nice. You cannot get away from ensnare. Now I know orcs get ensnared with raiders and they're very good.
Tier 2.
One of these days I'll make an orc unit tier list and I guess you can guess where raider is gonna go. But that should not be unlocked at minute
You know he's
2
gonna
of the
put
game.
raiders on
Before the
S.
heroes are even out, they can hire the huntsman. And so I once had a tournament, World Esports Games 2006, grand finals against Moon. No, semi-finals against Moon. Moon had a 35-0 record in televised games.
35-0 record.
Any Korean, Chinese, and international player that had played against him, that played with Orc, had been losing 0-3, 0-3, 0-0, 0-2, 0-3, 0-2. He had racked up 35 straight wins, which spanned nearly 2 years of Warcraft 3 play in the big
Nuts.
televised matches. And there I was, play against him, and we were going to play on Terna's stand. Nice. So I had been racking my brain. How do I stop the Murlocs? I would wake up during fitful sleeps at night. It's like, oh, the huntsmen are gonna get me. He's like, cold shivers, cold shivers. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then I had to do this. So I was actually thinking, for the first time ever, I think I'm just gonna call in sick. Like normal people call in sick. Why shouldn't I call in sick? Like, isn't pro gaming also like work? Like, yeah, sure, I enjoy it, but you know, why can my brothers go in sick and I can't? I thought, I'm just not gonna play. I don't think there's any chance. Then I started practicing. I thought, no, try it. Try to come up with a counter. So I did like tricks against AI, where like I come in with the peon and I try to like body block the wisp so he can't get the huntsman. So I thought, okay, I don't think I have a good chance, but this is better than anything. So I showed up at the tournament. I was like, no, focus, wake up. And the game begins, and I send the peon to the Mercamp, and I'm like, I know he's gonna do this, it's just gonna own me. And I send in the peon into the Mercamp, I'm like, wait a minute, he's not doing it. For some reason, he's not hiring the huntsman. There's no wisps here. So now I lost that peon to the creeps or whatever, or it's like there for no reason. I end up losing an extremely close competitive game. He didn't huntsman abuse for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe he thought I had a counter against it. I didn't. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I tried, but I didn't have enough knowledge how to stop it. He ended up not using it, and I ended up losing a very close game. And I think that little bit behind of the worker that I lost and my generally low confidence did not help. So I would end up losing this game. But I won the other 3 games, so I ended up cracking his perfect record, his flawless, unbroken streak of 2 years.
That's funny.
But I lost this
Grubby's the GOAT like
all
that.
because of the huntsman. No, wait. All because of no huntsman. No, wait. All because I built the huntsman strategy up too much in my mind. Yes, it was imbalanced, but I should have just played my game and think, hey, maybe he's nervous too. Don't defeat yourself before the battle, you know? There's something inspirational in that. But yeah, we ended up winning the series, and I did jump on the table, and the Chinese fans did rush on stage, and one of them did hug me from behind and lifted me with his scrawny little nerd arms. I did not weigh much. And he lifted me, and I felt him. And I felt more limbs than 2.
I remember seeing that. I remember that.
As was I. It was an iconic moment, and I shared it with dozens of fans on stage. It was a very cool moment. Very cool moment. However, Ternistan is a piece of shit map. There is a new version of it that attempted to address some imbalances. Partially the fact that Laboratory is too easy of a level 2, too free, too easy. And the fact that this natural expansion is protected by this large sickle shape of river.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine defending this area. Remember the
This
hand
guy.
and the finger? I want to attack your expo, you defend. I want to attack your main, you defend. I want to attack your expo or your main. You defend either one with the same hand. These bridges are a horrible idea for competitive balance and for fun. It's not even fun, even if you're just, you know, playing casually. 2 Rivers had that issue, and Ternistan has that issue. Guess what they both have in common? A series of bridges. Ternistan has 4 bridges, and 2 Rivers has 3 bridges. Bridges are an incredibly interesting, real, you know, strategical point in the history of wars as well. Like, yeah, there are iconic situations where you can prevent access to them and then you prevent mobility. That's not a good setting for a game, because I guess I'm just not going to try attacking. You keep your gold mine that is completely encapsulated by terrain, completely safe. I keep mine. Guess what? Stalemate number 2, just like Echo Isles. And the rush distance is just too great. So they came up with a new version. They said, let's address some of the issues. So they made new issues. The new Tyrannus stand moves the main bases even further into the corner of the map.
That's crazy.
Exacerbating a difficulty to rush and harass even more. And they pulled the Murloc Huntsman camp here. So this is now a mercenary camp, which means that you now have a instant unit production building, free access. You can
Right
creep
next
this before
to,
the opponent shows up,
next
because
to
even
your
though it
raise.
feels like it goes into the middle of the map and they can go here, it's still too late to stop it. So you get this camp for free as any race. Even Orc can get it for free, and Undead. Right? So you get this for free. You're now level 2. You get high level item consumable. You get free access to instant unit production. And then you can take your expansion, which is still protected by the sickle-shaped river. And there's still bridges everywhere. What? And also, there's almost nothing to do in the center area. There are no creeps around here. There's like a little stupid camp here, a little stupid camp here. There's nothing. This whole area, which means if I'm in this corner, I have creep camp 1, creep camp 2, creep camp 3 that are all really big. So if I know you're here and I'm here, there is no incentive for me to go here. Why? You finish 1 camp and 2 camp before I get there. We fight over the last. So I get maybe 1 or half, you get 2. You could just TP out, right? Instead, if I know you're in this quadrant of the map and I'm here, I take 1, 2, 3, you take 1, 2, 3. 3v3 is better than 1v2. So there's no action friction. We're playing our own single player game for most parts of Tyrannus Stand. This is a horrible map. It's imbalanced. It has produced some fun games, but it's too...
So, like, I'm not too keen on this map either, just because all the tower rushes that I've had to put up with, tower defenses and shit like that. I'm going to throw that into a D. Twisted Metals is the only S tier that he has. I think I have 2 S tier. Well, I have a few, right? So, Turtle Rock, I'd put into S tier. Lost Temple, I'd put into S tier. Twisted Metals, we'd put into S tier. And Northern Isles, no, Knollwood, it's between these two, right? But that's out of pure nostalgia.
Too much of a stalemate map, and its
E.
improvements did not mirror Echo Isles' improvements. And so Tyrannus Stand, I think
D.
it's better than Amazonia. It's also better than Plunder Isles, so it's going to be tier C. There's very few maps I would put in D. D, I would actually just throw away the work. And maybe I would fart in the general direction of whoever made these maps.
The only thing that I could think of for this map is the whole tower structure for the middle and to defend the bridges, because ultimately you could defend your whole half by holding down these 2 bridges, but then they got 2 bridges too, and then you have to look out for them here in the middle, right?
But for Tyrannus Stand, at least I can say, this map is not for me. I don't think it's good, but, you know, we don't have that many alternatives. So that's it. That's my tournament competitive one-on-one map pool. I was able to finish this one quite fast, in just over 2 hours. Maybe after editing it will be slightly under 2. This has been my fastest growing YouTube channel, and you guys are the reason for it. You like this kind of content a lot, and I love making it, so we're all happy. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Let me know in the comments what has been your favorite map. See you next time. Bye.
So huge shout out to Grubby, you know, for actually doing this for all of us. Wow, man, that's crazy. That is crazy. Well, I learned some new stuff, and whether or not you guys ended up picking the same kind of tier list as Grubby or as myself, or you see fit on your own kind of tier list, let me know down in the comments below if you're checking this video after the fact. And yeah, we're going to be back a little bit later on tonight. It's Community Duel Saturday. I have to go and start making dinner now. But I want to shout everybody out who came through. Huge shout out to Grubby for allowing everybody in the Warcraft 3 community to do this, pretty much, to react to his videos, take a look at it, end up creating their own tier list, how they see fit for themselves. I like to compare what he's saying, but I'll pick before he like starts breaking it down, just out of the way how I see the map for myself. And then like halfway through, as you guys have seen, logic might kick in a little bit, and I'll switch the tier for myself. But it doesn't reflect how he sees his tiers. But ultimately, I want to thank everybody for coming through. Appreciate you. I'll be checking you guys in a little bit. And yeah, man. Get ready, duelists. Yo, peace.